Chao Ying and Chao Shi had dressed up just to attend this special birthday banquet. However, the dress-up was more for the people who attended the banquet. Both of them wore the same light blue long dress which were embroidered with patterns of blooming lilies. Their dance shoes were tiny and their black hair naturally fell on their shoulders. They were naturally beautiful without any accessories. Their diamond earrings were crystal clear and shiny. They wore a shining jeweled necklace and their skin was translucent as if you could see their bones through their skin. Their breasts were full and firm, and their legs were white as snow. Along with their long and elegant physique and their tiny waists, all those beautiful features made them look extra attractive and breathtakingly beautiful. They slowly ambled into the room. Their eyes were clear as water and their skin was frosty and soft, which made them look elegantly cool and enchantingly charming. They also displayed the airs of nobility as if they were royal princesses. Their eyebrows were thin and long as the willows and both of their eyes were clear as a mountain stream. Their cheeks were bright and clean as jade, better than the snow. And all of those beautiful features happened to come together on the same. No. On two identical faces. Under those straight noses were their cherry red lips, as if they were red rouge used and crafted by God's miraculous hands. They were gorgeously strong and beautiful but did not seem vulgar at all. A beautiful girl like this was enough to draw everyone's attention. Now there were two of them walking together. Their looks, physiques and even their facial expressions and walking pace were exactly the same. They were as bright and colorful as the rising sun, and everyone was impressed by these two incomparably pretty women in the room. Such godlike women were not people you could encounter on earth. This was surely a heavenly view that could only be seen above. If there was anything imperfect about them, it would be the bodyguard behind them. For such stunningly beautiful girls, their bodyguard on the other hand had such an ordinary deadpan face which no one would want to have a second look at. However, guys around them envied this bodyguard as he could stand so close to those two ladies to protect them. Every guy would surely envy this bodyguard for the special treatment he received. Chao Ying and Chao Shi were already used to this kind of situation. They seemed as if they didn't know that they were the only attention in the room, and walked into the hall as if there was nothing unusual. By the time they reached the guests' table, half of the audience still looked very dazed and lost. Whose daughters are they? They were born so ridiculously and devastatingly pretty. Besides, they are twins. A 60 or 70-year-old guy wearing an army uniform with 3 stars on his shoulder praised them with a sigh. A girl that pretty was enough to take a man's breath away, and there were two of them. It was too overwhelming to one's vision and senses. He believed that he would surely lose his mind if he was 20 years younger. They are Li Yunzai's adopted daughters. Song, have you not heard about them? An old man behind smiled and said. They are? I only know a bit about his adopted daughters. I heard that there were so many sons from the rich families who fought for them in the Xuanyuan province. Now I have seen them today, I can see that they surely live up to the rumors. I thought the young guys in Xuanyuan province failed to live up to expectations. But seeing this with my own eyes now, we can't blame them anymore. I can't say what I would do if I was a little bit younger, he. However, to have those two young girls coming over from the south. It's surely not a good sign. The old man in the army uniform smiled bitterly. He glanced over at the young guys sitting on the other end. As expected, those sons of nobility tried to keep on to their dignity and manners, but each of them were blushing and breathing heavily. Some even had their eyes staring straight at them the whole time. Some even stood up, looking blankly for a while before they asked the people around them, or tried to ask around about who those girls were and so on. Such as whether they had a man already. Ling Chen behind Chao Shi and Chao Ying saw everything but remained steadily calm. He was not weirded out by this situation at all. These two girls' charm was indeed undefeatable. Even if it was him, he chose them in the first sight that year when he was selecting his rewards after winning the competition. He felt disappointed and frustrated as he reminisced about what happened that time. He looked over to the girls subconsciously. There were some droplets on the side of their face, which might be their sweat stains from what happened before. Their black hair was like a waterfall pouring down onto their shoulders. It moved smoothly like the silk as they walked around the room shakily. The lights in the room accentuated their glossy hair texture, making them look so superior and elegant that all the other rich girls in the room looked plain compared with them. A young man sitting near the outer edges of the room quickly reacted. He waved his hands to get all the bodyguards on the same table to stand up as Chao Shi and Chao Ying walked closer. He then walked elegantly towards them and smiled warmly and said gently, "Ladies, I happen to have empty seats here. Please sit here if you don't mind." This young man was wearing a white suit. He looked about 25-ish and his white and clean face made him seem naturally noble and confident. His name was Lan Chengyu, and his father was the vice mayor of Beijing. His mother was the president of Langhai Technology. He was classic, second-generation, young master considering how superior his family backgrounds were. He never looked at the bodyguard behind them. Chao Shi and Chao Ying didn't even have the opportunity to speak when a surprised voice sounded out, "Chao Shi. Chao Ying. It's you two. Why are you guys here?" A tall and sturdy man around the age of 30 walked towards them. Looking surprised, he approached them in admiration and excitement. Chao Shi and Chao Ying both smiled at the same time. "Big brotherly, you came too?" "Huh, yes, yes. My dad didn't have time so I came for him. Although I was reluctant, but if I knew earlier that you guys were coming, I would have surely attended even if my dad would have to break my legs." The tall guy continued and laughed as there was no one else around them. He then pointed at the table behind which he had just quickly cleared out. "It's so glad to see you two here. I happen to be the only one sitting near this table, so just sit here instead. We have a lot to talk about." This guy's background was also not simple. His name was Li Wu Quebec. His father was the main force in Zhongzhou province. His power was high among the whole Zhongzhou province. At the same time, his father and Li Yunzhe were good friends. How the Li family was able to settle in Suhang was largely due to this relationship between them. The Li family was looked after by them during their development in Zhongzhou province. Since Li Yunzhe adopted these two daughters, Li Wuke visited the uncle's house 10 times more often than before. He would still persist on coming even if he could not see Chao Shi and Chao Ying most of the time. On the other hand, Lan Chengyu did not seem impressed. He glared at Li Wuke and mocked him coldly. "Young Master Li, didn't your mother teach you how impolite it is to interrupt someone when they're speaking?" Li Wuke stopped smiling after hearing this. He then replied dismissively, "What? Are you pissed?" Those two young masters were surely the hegemons over the others. Everywhere they went, they showed no signs of inferiority, fear, envy and worry or any need for them to flatter or fawn on someone. When Chao Shi and Chao Ying were in front of them, both of them started become more emotional, competitive and proud as they began to lose their basic rationality. It was almost impossible to let one of them step back in this situation. Lan Chengyu turned his body around and mocked him again. "Young Master Li, I am very sorry that you don't have manners. I know you are invincible and powerful around Zhongzhou province. Indeed, you are very impressive. But here, Beijing is not your territory. Stay humble, otherwise, it would not be good if you got lost and couldn't find your way out of Beijing." Lan Chengyu's words were indeed very aggressive, and everyone around him frowned. Li Wuke had never been threatened by anyone before, so he suddenly became furious. However, he chose to face Chao Shi and Chao Ying with a regretful smile and said, "Sisters, you are both fairy-like people, and I am so regretful that you had to face someone disgusting like him. Come, let us all sit on that side. The banquet is about to begin. I thought there were many nobles in Beijing. What I didn't expect was a bunch of trash who feel superior and proud, even though deep down, they are worth nothing. You want to die? Lan Chengyu became very angry. His bodyguards behind him plunged forward upon hearing his yell, and the whole room suddenly quieted down. It was evident how much he cared about this niece of his. Seeing Chao Ying and Chao Shi walk in, Su Yicheng, who was greeting guests in the hall, felt his heart thump. Oh dear, these two girls were here on behalf of Li Yunzhe. It seemed that something was going to happen tonight. Having lived so long, how could Su Yicheng not know that women who were too beautiful could be a source of disaster? The people gathered here all had frightening backgrounds, and young princes, filled with arrogance, were present all around the hall. The likelihood of something going wrong was much too high. This was increased even more by these ridiculously beautiful women. What's more, these two women with calamitous beauty were twins. The chances of this banquet going smoothly were now less than the odds of Mars crashing into Earth. It seemed that his worries were justified. Seeing Lan Chengyu and Li Wuke get up and start arguing with each other, a vein on Su Yicheng's head bulged. Only 30 seconds had passed since these girls had walked in. He sighed and briskly walked over. If it was any other occasion, the ill-tempered Su Yicheng would have smacked those two boys. As the third highest senior official in all of China, even if he beat them up, their fathers wouldn't dare to even squeak. However, tonight was his niece's 16th birthday party, and also concerned the rest of her life. He definitely couldn't ruin the mood. As such, he resisted the urge to throw the boys out as he smiled and said to Chao Ying and Chao Shi, "Haha, everyone here is a distinguished guest of our family. How could we not have seats for everyone? Girls, there are still many seats inside. Please follow me." "Thank you, Uncle Su," Chao Ying and Chao Shi politely said as they followed Su Yicheng. Ling Chen also casually walked behind them, but was not noticed by anyone. With Su Yicheng personally taking them away, Lan Chengyu and Li Wuke had no choice but to give up. They resentfully glared at each other, and silently returned to their seats. However, they couldn't drag their gazes away from the two women. With their family backgrounds, they had seen countless beauties, but none of them could even compare to those twins. Even their backs were enough to mesmerize these men. "Girls, you can sit here. Tonight, just treat this place as your own home, and don't be too courteous. As for those brats, just ignore them." Su Yicheng chuckled as he walked off. He had arranged for them to be seated at the right-hand side of the very first row. There were two bonsais that were about 2 meters tall next to them, making it difficult for people to see them. Evidently Su Yicheng wanted to lower the chances of the sisters causing trouble with their looks. Chao Ying and Chao Shi were very happy with these seats. They lowered their heads and talked in soft voices, ignoring all the passionate gazes shot towards them. Ling Chen stood unmoving behind them, looking like an incredibly straight tree. His eyes swept around, and found 2 security cameras covering the area they were in. His hands blurred as he plucked off 2 leaves from the bonsais next to him, and he silently flicked them out. The 2 leaves simultaneously flew towards the security cameras and covered the lenses. During the whole process, he had not made a single sound, and not a single person had detected anything. Even if someone checked the recording, they would not be able to see where the 2 leaves had come from. Even the sound of the leaves hitting the lenses was covered by the lively sounds in the hall. Despite being blocked by the bonsais, there were still many people looking over. No matter where they went, Chao Ying and Chao Shi would always be the center of attention. Women would look at them in admiration and envy, while men would look at them with passion or lust. Many males wanted to make a move, but looking at the time, they all held themselves back. Ling Chen coldly looked around when he suddenly saw someone. He was around 25 years old, and had sword-like eyebrows and star-like eyes. The air around him was quite extraordinary, and despite being young, he gave off a sense of power and majesty. Anyone who saw this man would silently marvel at how he was a dragon among men. He looked quite elegant with a smile on his face as he looked around the hall. He greeted everyone he knew, and almost seemed like he was a member of the Su family. Whenever his eyes happened to sweep across where Chao Ying and Chao Shi were sitting, a look of greed and lust would appear in them. Ling Chen recognized this person, and would never forget him, even if he died. You know what you are? You're a bastard. A bastard of bastards, got it? A bastard like you wants to climb to my Xuanyuan family? Ha 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 ha, ha ha, little bastard, piss off from your elder's sight. If I see you come near my little sister Diawu, I won't just kick you a few times. If there's a next time, I'll break each of your fingers. Little bastard, look at those dogs over there. You're pretty much like a dog raised by the Long family, but these dogs are all obedient. You, on the other hand, aren't very obedient. Disobedient dogs should be buried alive. Enjoy yourself while you can, make sure you're obedient, or you'll be buried alive, ha ha ha. Crack. Chao Ying and Chao Shi's breathing stilled as they slightly looked back behind them. Ling Chen's hands were gripped tightly together, and the veins on the back of his hands were bulging. Ling Chen's eyes did not move as he looked at the person. However, his gaze had become as insidious as a venomous snake's. Xuanyuan Shui, back then, for Diawu, I endured, and endured, and endured, as long as I could meet Diawu again, no matter how much humiliation, mocking and pain I had to endure, I swallowed it up inside of me. I never retaliated or resisted. Back then, I didn't have the ability to retaliate, nor could I let Diawu find out. But I will never forget, even to this day, I still remember completely. Xuanyuan Shui, enjoy tonight. I won't let you die, but I'll make tonight an unforgettable night for you. The chilling intent emitted by Ling Chen caused Chao Ying and Chao Shi to shudder. However, their expressions did not change, and they continued to quietly talk to each other with smiles on their faces. It was as if they didn't notice the gazes directed towards them. They were very clear that the three people Ling Chen hated the most in his life were Long Tianyun, Xuanyuan Shui, and the time quickly approached 7 p.m. When Chao Ying and Chao Shi had entered, all guests were already present. Even if someone who was invited couldn't personally make it, they would send representatives. There was no one who was, or could be, so arrogant as to refuse the Su family's invitation. At this moment, the lights in the hall suddenly dimmed as a warm light shot onto the stage, attracting everyone's attention. The bustling hall instantly quietened down. A female MC wearing bright and beautiful clothes walked onto the stage. Every inch of the hall was filled with powerful and distinguished guests, but the MC did not seem nervous at all. She gave a bow as she spoke into the microphone, her sweet voice filling the hall. Distinguished guests, you've all come from many different places. We welcome you to the Su family's residence, and thank everyone for taking the time out of your busy schedules to participate in our Su family's Princess' 16th birthday party. On behalf of the Su family, I sincerely thank each and one of you. Beauty was one of the best gifts the heavens could give to women. The opening words spoken at a banquet were always the same. No matter how they were phrased, they would always sound boring. However, hearing it from a woman, especially one who was beautiful and had a pleasant voice, made it enjoyable to listen to. After going through many tedious greetings, the beautiful MC elegantly smiled. Today is October 1st 3101, and we're in yet another peaceful winter. With the snow falling, this is the most beautiful season of the year, and our Su family's princess has also come to her most beautiful day. This is because today, our princess is finally 16 years old. Princess Su'er is a precious gift given to our Su family by the heavens. She is our Su family's bright pearl. She is the Su family's beloved, and is God's beloved, and carries with her our wishes and blessings. 16 years old is the most beautiful season of a person's life. The beautiful MC was evidently very well prepared. No matter if it was her voice, tone, or expression, she was able to fully captivate everyone's emotions, causing them to bless this girl who had stepped into the most beautiful season of her life. Chao Ying and Chao Shi also looked at the stage, awaiting the leading role's entrance. They had heard of Xuanyuan before, and had seen her photos, but had never seen her in person before. They were very curious about this girl who could make Ling Chen come over from Suhang. As the guests clapped, flower petals of various colors floated down. Amidst the flower petals, a fairy-like girl slowly walked onto the stage. Her appearance caused the applause to pause for a split second. Everyone who saw the girl had a strange light in their eyes. Xuanyuan, seeing the girl, Ling Chen couldn't help but mutter her name in a low voice. It had been around 4 or 5 months since they had separated. This entire time, she had been helping him, and he could feel how much effort she was putting in. However, he hadn't been able to see her this whole time. Xuanyuan was wearing a pure white birthday dress. She was petite and graceful, and walked incredibly slowly and lightly, as if she was being very cautious. The onlookers felt as if a celestial beauty from the palace on the moon was walking towards them. Standing beside the beautiful MC, Xuanyuan silently looked up. Her eyes were like sparkling crystals, and looked almost transparent. Her face was extremely gentle, and adding on the cherry-red lipstick, she looked sweet and touching. Her eyes contained a tenderness and delicateness that she had had since birth, and combined with her small frame, anyone would want to protect and cherish her. Xuanyuan was today's leading role. Seeing his niece, the iron-blooded and emotionless Su Yicheng grinned widely, unable to contain himself. "This is my niece. He, whose niece is as pretty, sensible, thoughtful and well-tempered as my niece? Wallow in your envy, ha ha ha." The beautiful MC leaned slightly forwards as she smiled and said, "Princess Xuanyuan, I would like to first personally wish you countless blessings on your 16th birthday. Today is the first day you're 16 years old, and you have so many people sharing it with you. Are you happy?" "I'm very happy, thank you all for coming." Xuanyuan gave a small smile as she spoke in a voice that was as soft and gentle as a warm wind. "In that case, is there anything you would like to say to everyone?" the beautiful MC said as she smiled. Xuanyuan received the microphone and gave a small bow. "Thank you everyone for sharing in Xuanyuan's 16th birthday. Thank you all for your blessings, thank you." After speaking, she quietly walked down. As the leading role for tonight's banquet, she didn't say much. Her words were said quite naturally, but if one paid attention, they would see that her smile was a bit stiff. Moreover, there was almost no emotion in her voice. This was because she knew that most people in the hall didn't come because of her, but because of her parents and uncle. Before, she would spend her birthdays with sisters like Shao Qi. Her uncle Su Yicheng would also drop all matters to eat the birthday cake with her. In the past, she had always been extremely happy on her birthdays. However, this was the first birthday banquet she had, and although there were many people celebrating her birthday with her, there were not any people who she recognized. Although the upper-class society circles were quite small, she rarely went out, so she didn't know many people. Moreover, she also knew that tonight wasn't about her birthday, but about her arranged marriage. The beautiful MC immediately continued, as she beamed, saying, "As everyone knows, our Princess Xuanyuan is meek and gentle, and isn't very good with words. However, I'm sure everyone can feel Princess Xuanyuan's gratitude and emotions." Xuanyuan, who was standing next to the MC, didn't hear anything she said. She silently swept her eyes across every inch of the hall. After looking around many times, her eyes completely dimmed. The person who she most wanted to see, someone she knew couldn't, and shouldn't, come here, was not there. However, she was also afraid that he would come. This sort of internal conflict had sent her emotions into turmoil, and now she felt completely lost. "Big brother Ling Tian, you must protect yourself. Your safety is what I want most. But... Princess Xuanyuan, your family must be incredibly happy that you're 16 years old now. Your father has made countless sacrifices for you over the years. He's Mayor Su, who's respected by tens of thousands of people, and has countless halos behind him. However, first and foremost, he's a marvelous father. I'm sure there are many things you would like to say to your father on your 16th birthday. And your mother, although she isn't your birth mother, she has treated you like her own daughter. She has shed much tears and sweat for you over the years. Is there anything you would like to say to her? Your uncle is senior official Su, who is also respected by countless people. Almost everyone in China knows that only in front of his niece will he become warm and jovial. Senior official Su has no children, so he has always treated you like his own daughter. I'm sure there are many things you want to say to him, right? There's also. The birthday banquet continued according to the order set for it, and Su'er responded like a puppet each time. She didn't say much each time, and didn't say anything moving. However, no one found this strange. Those who were familiar with the Su family knew that there was only Su'er in her generation. When she was 6 years old, which was when she was the closest with her mother and needed a mother the most, her mother, Murong Lan, had passed away. This had affected her greatly, and shaped her personality. When Su'er was 10, Su Hongcheng had married Murong Lan's little sister, Murong Xiu, who was Su'er's auntie at the time. Murong Xiu treated Su'er like her own daughter, and did everything a mother would. However, no matter what she did, she would always just be a stepmother. Despite being her stepmother after all these years, Su'er still called her auntie, and very rarely did she call her mother or mum. As such, despite being born into a big and powerful family like the Su family, people rarely saw Su'er. If Su'er acted in a lively and cheerful manner, people would feel surprised. Ling Chen was looking at Su'er the entire time, but she did not notice him. The current face he had was completely different to his own, and even the shape of his body was different. Seeing Su'er's lackluster appearance, he felt an ache in his heart, and silently said, "Su'er, I'm here." As such, the thing you don't want to happen won't happen. Even if everyone in your family wants it to happen, I will completely destroy it. By now, Ling Chen had looked over every person present. Most of them were unfamiliar to him, and the familiar ones caught his attention. Xuanyuan Shui was present, and the main topic today was their arranged marriage. As such, why wouldn't his father, Xuanyuan Sheng, be here? Xuanyuan Sheng sat in the corner of the front row, his right arm unmoving. Even when he did move, it looked extremely unnatural. Ling Chen coldly laughed to himself. That night, he had taken a full-force blow from Xuanyuan Sheng to rip off his right arm. Completely ripped off. Xuanyuan Sheng's skin, muscles, bones, tendons, nerves and blood vessels had all been ripped off, causing him unimaginable pain. It would have been tens of times more painful than it being cut off by a sword. Although his arm had been reattached, given how Ling Chen had ripped it off, he would never be able to use it the same way again. Another familiar person was Murong Xiong Tian, the leader of the Long family's 7 main forces, as well as one of Long Zhengyang's 2 strongest bodyguards. He had been beaten up by Ling Chen to the point that all 7 orifices on his face had leaked blood, but evidently, his body was incredibly tough. He looked full of life, and had completely recovered. He was Murong Xiu's older brother, and was Su'er's uncle. As such, it wasn't strange that he was here. Ling Chen coldly laughed to himself. Today, even if the Emperor of Heaven was present, he was still going to cripple Xuanyuan Shui. The birthday banquet moved on to the gift-giving and well-wishing. All of the gifts given to the Su family's princess were extraordinary gifts. All sorts of valuable treasures were given out, and all sorts of birthday well-wishes were said to Su'er. Chao Ying and Chao Shi also presented their gift. It was a sea heart jade that could nourish one's skin, and was worth millions of dollars. With the Li family's wealth, it was no problem giving out such a gift. However, the main reason such a present was given was because Li Xiaoshui knew of the relationship between Ling Chen and Su'er. A gigantic, 2-meter-tall cake was brought to the stage, which was filled with unlit candles. The beautiful MC high-spiritedly exclaimed, "Before we light up the candles and ask our Princess Xuer to make a wish, our beloved Mayor Su has an important announcement to make. This matter will brighten up this event even more, making this birthday banquet something Princess Xuer will never forget. I invite our beloved Mayor Su to take to the stage." Applause sounded out as Su Hongchen walked up to the stage as he beamed. Every person's face had a tacit smile of mutual understanding. Everyone already knew what Su Hongchen was going to announce. The thing he was about to announce was the true reason why they were all here. Ling Chen, who was standing behind Chao Ying and Chao Shi, silently turned and walked away. Neither of the two women turned around, as if they hadn't noticed him leaving. As a bodyguard, no one would notice his movements. A few people casually glanced at him, and disregarded him when they saw he was walking in the direction of the toilets. After entering the toilet and locking the door, Ling Chen wiped his hand across his face and returned to his normal appearance. He then took off the black suit he was wearing and reversed it, turning into a white suit. He did the same thing with his pants, which became a pair of white pants. He bent down and pulled at his shoes, causing a layer of something black to slide off. His shoes also became white. Finally, he put on a white peaked cap that seemed a bit out of place with the rest of his attire as he casually walked out. No matter if it's looks, character or abilities, Shui is an excellent young man, and there are few who can compare to him. Moreover, he deeply cares about my daughter, so if they can be together, I can be at ease about my daughter. As such, I talked to Brother Xuanyuan about this matter, and he happily agreed. It was just that my daughter was too young at the time, so we decided that when she turned 16, we would arrange the marriage between Xuer and Shui, which is today. Hearing Su Hongcheng's speech, the hall erupted into applause, and many people started to cheer. Su Yicheng and Murong Xiu also smiled to them. Just Xuanyuan Shui's status as the eldest son of the Xuanyuan family qualified him to be with Xuer. What's more, Xuanyuan Shui was incredibly handsome, as well as a rare genius. He was definitely the most talented out of the younger generation in the Xuanyuan family. If they were together, they would never have to worry about Xuer's safety, as the Xuanyuan family was publicly acknowledged to be the safest place in all of China. As the only ancient family that still used cold weapons, every single member of their family possessed frightening abilities. Xuer looked down as her small hands gripped at her dress. No one could see her current expression. Although she had prepared herself for this, now that the time had come, she still felt incredibly anxious. Ha ha ha. Su Hongcheng heartily laughed. He raised his right hand as he said, "Oh, Brother Xuanyuan, I can't continue if you don't bring Shui up. That's because I was waiting to enjoy more of Lil Brother Su's elegant demeanor." Xuanyuan Sheng also laughed as he stood up. The instant he stood up, he became the center of attention. As the head of the guardian family of the Long family, he had an incredibly high status. However, not many people had seen him before. This was because the Xuanyuan family normally protected the Long family from the shadows, and did not usually appear in public. As such, the appearance of such a legendary figure drew countless gazes. Those who hadn't seen him before did their best to remember his face. Xuanyuan Sheng brought Xuanyuan Shui up with him to the stage. Seeing Xuanyuan Shui caused many people's eyes to light up. He was handsome and elegant, and had an extraordinary bearing. He was like a handsome man who had walked straight out of a painting. With such an appearance, coupled with the fact that he was the successor to the Xuanyuan family, there was no woman who was too good for him. The people couldn't help but sigh in admiration. The Su family's daughter had found a perfect match. No wonder why the Su family was in such a rush to arrange this matter, and had invited so many important and powerful guests. As for the Su family's daughter, she was so beautiful that even animals liked her. When she grew older, she would simply be mesmerizing. Moreover, she was the Su family's only daughter, and would inherit the Su family, making her and Xuanyuan Shui an ideal couple. Seeing the two of them stand together, everyone looked at this golden couple in admiration. Perhaps the only shortcoming of this marriage was that the Su family's daughter was still quite young. However, age didn't matter much to them. The legal age for marriage was nothing to these sorts of rich and powerful people. "Hello, Uncle Su." Xuanyuan Shui warmly and politely greeted Su Hongcheng, and smiled as he looked at Su whose head was lowered. Haha. Su Hongcheng laughed as he measured up Xuanyuan Shui. The more he looked at him, the more pleased he was. He then looked at Su and misinterpreted her reaction as one of shyness. He chuckled as he said, "Shui, today's matter will affect the rest of your life, so make sure you think about it carefully. If my family's Su isn't to your liking, don't force yourself. Even if it's here, you don't need to feel any pressure, and no one will force you." Xuanyuan Shui lightly smiled as he replied, "I'm sure Uncle Su already knows how I feel towards Su Su is quiet and cute, and the first time I saw her, I felt that I wanted to protect her for the rest of my life. As I grow up together with Su that desire grew within me, year by year. Now, it's so strong that I can't resist it and can't escape from it. To look after little sister Su for my entire life is my joy and my desire. I hope the friends and seniors here can bear witness to what I've said today for a lifetime." Su Hongcheng's smile grew even wider, and Su Yicheng nodded in satisfaction. Xuanyuan Sheng loudly laughed, "Since Shui has said this, as his father, I have nothing else to say. I'm afraid if I don't agree, he'll flip out at me. Brother Xuanyuan's exaggerating." Su Hongcheng was in a terrific mood. He patted Suer's arm as he said in a low voice, "Suer, did you hear what Shui and Uncle Xuanyuan said? Is there anything you want to say to them?" Hearing Su Hongcheng's voice, Suer desperately lowered her head as she bit her lips, weakly saying, all right, if you don't want to say anything, don't force yourself." Su Hongcheng once again patted her shoulder as he shook his head. He once again spoke in a loud voice, "My daughter's excellent in everything, but she's just a bit shy. She usually can't talk in front of strangers, so this sort of setting is the worst sort of thing for her." Xuanyuan Shui smiled, "Yes, but that is what makes little sister Su cute." Very well." Su Hongcheng nodded, then continued, "In that case, I'll speak for my daughter. Su is completely in agreement with this, and since Shui is so willing, there's nothing else to be said. After exchanging the tokens and all the eating and drinking, our daughter will be your Xuanyuan family's person. Our Su family has this single daughter in her generation, and she is our entire family's treasure. Shui, make sure you take care of her well." The things Su Hongcheng had said about Xuanyuan Shui and Su being incredibly close were utter rubbish. Su had barely seen Xuanyuan Shui a few times, let alone interact with him. However, it was true that Su had never openly opposed this marriage in front of Su Hongcheng or anyone else in her family. This was because Su was too obedient, especially to her family. She simply didn't know what it was to rebel or refuse. Back then, when Su Hongcheng had raised this matter with her, Su had lapsed into silence, then obediently nodded. However, she only did that out of habit. At that time, she didn't even know who Xuanyuan Shui was. By the time she had matured and formed her own opinion on this matter, her father, stepmother and uncle were all set on it. Since the three people she was closest to were so adamant about it, the gentle and weak Su didn't have the strength to resist. She wasn't like Yunmeng Xian, who was gentle on the outside but tough on the inside. "Don't worry, lil brother Su. If Shui dares to bully Su as his father, I definitely won't let him off." Xuanyuan Sheng said as he nodded. Xuanyuan Shui said with a sincere gaze, "I hereby promise Uncle Su, as well as all seniors from the Su family, no matter what happens, I won't let Su suffer even a bit of injustice. I'll do everything in my power to make her the happiest girl in the world. Very good. Su Hongcheng vigorously nodded. Hearing you say that, I can be at ease. Su Hongcheng turned and faced everyone else in the hall as he loudly said, Dear friends, you can see that my daughter and the Xuanyuan family Shui are both willing. Brother Xuanyuan and I have been friends for many years, and today also happens to be my daughter's 16th birthday. With all of you here today, we shall formally resolve upon this matter. Does anyone have any objections? Of course, Su Hongcheng's last sentence was simply a courtesy, and was used to make the guests react. As expected, as soon as he said this, many of the guests started to call out. The Su family's princess and Xuanyuan family's prince are a match made in heaven. This is a wonderful event. They're the perfect pair, anyone would be jealous. Congratulations Brother Su for finding a good family for your daughter. I wish my daughter can marry into such a good family in future. Hearing Lil Brother Su, all that's left is to drink the celebratory wine. Don't make us wait too long, ha ha ha. All sorts of congratulations, blessings and well wishes rang out around the hall. On the stage, Su Hongcheng and the Xuanyuan father and son beamed. To them, this matter was already set in stone. After formally agreeing on it today, the marriage would be in 2 years at the latest. The only person on the stage who didn't look too happy was Su'er. She didn't say a single word, and was unable to say anything. In fact, she was unable to even look at anyone. I object. An incredibly piercing voice suddenly rang out amidst all of the other voices. Everyone looked over in astonishment, and the hall fell into silence. At the back of the hall, near the middle, stood a young man wearing a white suit and pants. He wore an ill-matching peaked cap, which was pulled low over his face, making it so that people could only see the lower half of his face. His existence was completely unexpected, those who were nearest to him only just discovered that he was standing there. None of them knew when he had arrived. Even Su Hongcheng and the others on the stage just realized that there was a person there. White was the most eye-catching color, and yet they didn't recall seeing such a person. Su Hongcheng had greeted every single guest at the entrance, but he didn't remember anyone wearing a full set of white clothing come in. He came, he really came, he had come here, just like in her dreams. Everyone's attention was focused on the man in white, so no one noticed Su'er's strange reaction. No matter who this man in white was, he had ruined the atmosphere here. Su Hongcheng's face darkened, but he maintained his bearing. After all, it was him who asked if there was anyone who had objections. Now that there really was someone who objected, he couldn't just explode at him. Su Hongcheng slowly spoke, Oh. If this little friend has any objections to my daughter and Shui being together, please let us know. Also, I'm getting old and my memory's getting worse, I simply can't remember this little friend's name. Which family's prince are you? Su Hongcheng spoke extremely courteously, in fact, he was a bit too courteous. However, anyone who wasn't an idiot could hear the fury that was suppressed by the courtesy. Hearing his words, Ling Chen smirked as he calmly looked ahead. Half of his face was still hidden by the peaked cap, wearing a set of white clothing combined with a peaked cap looked quite strange, and Chao Ying and Chao Shi almost laughed out loud a few times. Ling Chen leisurely replied, My personal status isn't very important, so I won't bother saying it. If Mayor Su really is interested, you'll find out later on. As for the arranged marriage between Su'er and Xuanyuan Shui, I have something to say about that. Hearing him speak to the people in the hall were flabbergasted. More of half of them were thinking, was this young man crazy? What sort of existence was the Xuanyuan family? What sort of existence was the Su family? Su'er and Xuanyuan Shui were a perfect match, and both families were completely willing. Even if one of them was a celestial beauty and the other was as ugly as a pig, with how powerful their families were, who would dare to raise objections? Even the Long family wouldn't dare to say anything to ruin the mood. This mysterious young man, did he know what he was doing? Even if what this young man said was completely correct, justifiable, reasonable, logical and sensible, he would have offended two big families, the Su family and Xuanyuan family. The consequences would be incredibly dire. The man in white disregarded all of that as he continued to talk. Princess Xuer is quiet and shy, and looks like a goddess from the heavens. She's obedient and well-tempered, making anyone want to take care of her. She's incredibly kind, and although she was born into a rich and powerful family, she does not have even a shred of arrogance, nor does she have any evil thoughts. She would rather sacrifice herself than let anyone else be hurt. This sort of girl is simply an angel who reincarnated into a human, and I'm sure there's no girl who is as perfect as Princess Xuer in all of China. Which man wouldn't like a girl like her? Xuanyuan Shui falling for Xuer is completely normal. These words of praise caused Xuer to lower her head again. Her face was flushed red from nervousness and excitement, and the words, "which man wouldn't like a girl like her," caused her heart to rapidly beat, as if a rabbit had jumped in. The furious Su Hongcheng couldn't help but feel a bit pleased. Hearing someone praise his daughter like that, any father would feel happy. Su Yicheng's impression of this young man suddenly became much better. That's right. My niece really is that great. This brat's completely right. Ling Chen continued to speak, a girl like her is a blessing to the world. I'm sure her family treats her like a precious pearl. For a girl like Princess Xuer, there should be a perfect home for her. I'm sure this is Mayor Su's greatest wish, right? Of course. Which father doesn't want his daughter to be happy forever? Su Hongcheng nodded. Most of the suppressed fury was now gone from his voice. Ling Chen pulled down the brim of the cap as his voice became softer. In that case, shouldn't you take such a big matter like marriage more seriously? Su Hongcheng frowned as he replied, of course we're taking this marriage seriously. Many years ago, Brother Xuanyuan and I already agreed on this. Even if we disregard the Xuanyuan family, Xuanyuan Shui is an extremely remarkable young man, and both parties are willing and agreed to this marriage. Which of us need to take this more seriously? All of the guests silently nodded. Xuanyuan Shui was excellent in all areas, and apart from Long Tianyun, there was no one who could compare to him in the younger generation. Adding on how much he liked Xuer, going so far as to make a vow in front of everyone, how could they not be an ideal couple? How much more seriously did they have to take this? Did they have to take it seriously and wait a few years until Xuanyuan Shui found another woman? Even if they cried and regretted, it would be much too late by then. Ling Chen chuckled, then continued, both parties are willing? How come I can't tell? Both of them agreed to this marriage? I can tell Xuanyuan Shui is quite willing, but as for Princess Xuer, has anyone heard her agree to this marriage? Just then, I only heard Mayor Su say that he was agreeing on behalf of Princess Xuer, but she did not say anything herself. Mayor Su, are you sure your daughter truly wants to marry Xuanyuan Shui? What nonsense! Su Hongcheng's anger flared up, are you saying you understand my daughter more than me? If my daughter wasn't willing, how could I force her to marry someone she didn't like? Really? Ling Chen smiled, as his voice became gentle. He looked to Xuer as he softly said, Princess Xuer, your father said that both you and Xuanyuan Shui agree to this marriage, are you truly willing? I want to hear your true thoughts, not your father speaking on your behalf. I hope you can truthfully answer whether you're willing or unwilling. I know that your personality is gentle and meek, and aren't very good at refusing, especially to those close to you. You would rather be hurt than to oppose them. Perhaps you think that by suffering like this, you will make them happy. However, you're completely wrong. Have you considered that if you marry someone you don't love, will you be happy? If you're unhappy, will your family be happy? Also, your friends and good sisters, will they be happy? Your family, as well as true friends, just want you to live a happy and worry-free life. They'll be happy if you are happy. If you betray your own heart and simply obey, not only is this not good for you, but it will hurt all of them as well. Something as important as this, which will affect the rest of your life, will cause unimaginable pain. As such, you need to bravely say what you really think, for yourself, your family and friends, as well as the person you truly like, and the person who likes Xuer. Xuer's eyes trembled. Ling Chen's words caused her to fully wake up, and that last sentence caused her heart to beat incredibly quickly. Him appearing, and his existence, filled her with immense courage. She looked up and stared at Ling Chen for a while before turning to her father. She spoke using a solemn voice that she rarely used as she said, "Dad. I've only met Xuanyuan Shui a few times, and we've barely talked. I don't like him or want to marry him, Dad, Uncle. I'm sorry." After saying these words, Xuer felt her entire body lighten. The heavy rock that had been weighing down on her heart had been cast off by her courage. Even the nervousness and worry disappeared as well. At that moment, she had never felt so free and relaxed before. Xuer spoke softly and slowly, but it was as if the hall had been struck by a bolt of lightning. The entire hall fell silent, and everyone's expression was simply comical. The word Xuer had spoken, clearly rejected the marriage. If this had happened a day ago, everything would be fine. Even if Su Hongqing didn't follow Xuer's wishes, he would at least prepare her for the engagement party. Perhaps he would respect her wishes, and talk to the Xuanyuan family privately, and settle the matter quietly. However, what was the situation right now? This was the Su family and the Xuanyuan family's big engagement banquet, and they had invited many rich and powerful families to bear witness. Not only were the pair not engaged, but the Su family's princess had suddenly rejected this marriage. How was the Xuanyuan family supposed to prepare their dignity after being rejected like this in front of so many members of the upper-class society? The heir of the Xuanyuan family had been rejected in public. How would he maintain his dignity if this news was spread? The entire Xuanyuan family would become a laughingstock. This was more humiliating than publicly slapping the Xuanyuan family hundreds, if not thousands, of times. Of course, the Su family that had caused all of this had inadvertently offended the Xuanyuan family. Even if the Xuanyuan family didn't immediately fall out with them, and remained calm, they would definitely seek revenge. Xuanyuan Sheng and Xuanyuan Shui's faces twisted, while Su Hongqing and Su Yicheng were completely dumbfounded. Their faces completely stiffened, and they were unable to utter a single word. No one expected such a thing to happen. Su Hongqing understood just how serious the consequences of today's rejection would be. The hall was filled with guests he had invited to bear witness to this event, but now, he wished they could all disappear. He didn't dare to look at the Xuanyuan father and son's faces. Instead, he hurriedly put his hands on Xuer's shoulders. The noble and dignified Mayor Su started to stutter while speaking. "Xuer, why you, what did you say, this, why you can't joke about things like this, you agreed to this engagement, are right." Xuer shook her head as she softly said, "Dad, I'm not joking. Xuanyuan Shui is indeed, quite excellent, but I don't like him at all. Before, I didn't refuse, because Dad, Uncle and Auntie, were all set on this matter. You all felt that Xuanyuan Shui was the best match for me, and always said that I would be happy if I married into his family. I was afraid that if I refused, Dad, Uncle and Auntie wouldn't be happy, so I. Xuer's voice was incredibly soft, but everyone could hear the determination in her voice. As her father, even Su Hongqing felt unfamiliar with this side of his daughter. From his memories, his daughter had always been gentle and meek like a kitten. Normally, she would agree with what he said, and was incredibly obedient. Hearing her words, Su Hongqing felt a bit stunned. At this moment, he realized that what he had interpreted as his daughter's agreement was simply her personality. Just because she didn't refuse didn't mean she was truly wiling. Today was the first time she had opposed him so resolutely. Although the consequences were incredibly severe, Su Hongqing simply couldn't become angry at this incredibly lovely daughter of his. He bitterly smiled as he said, "It was my fault for not asking you properly. It's not your fault. If that's how you really feel, how about we slow down the matter with you and Shui? There's no reason to completely reject it. After all, you haven't interacted much, and haven't gotten to know each other." This was overlooked by brother Xuanyuan and myself. However, feelings can be slowly developed. Moreover, Shui is incredibly handsome, and has a good personality, as well as terrific sword arts. No one will be able to bully you if you are with him. Su Hongqing was still giving his final attempt at saving this engagement party. He simply didn't want to give up on the marriage with Xuanyuan Shui, as the consequences were simply too dire. They simply couldn't afford to offend the Long family's guardian family, the Xuanyuan family that had existed for thousands of years. Moreover, he was quite fond of Xuanyuan Shui. He felt that there were very few young men who could compare to him, and if they really rejected Xuanyuan Shui, it would be difficult for his daughter to find such an excellent man again. However, he didn't expect her to once again refuse, as well as say something even more shocking, "Dad, I'm sorry. I can't like him. I already like someone." "Who is it? Who's the person that you like?" Su Hongqing hurriedly asked. He was much more emotional than a normal father would be. He thought he understood his daughter quite well. Usually, she would stay at home, and even if she went out, she would always be with the same sisters. Normally, she would never come into contact with men. After she decided to help Yunmeng Xian, she requested to move out. Faced with this request from his daughter, who never went out, Su Hongqing happily agreed. She would be staying with the Battle Alliance's Shao Zhan's only daughter, as well as the Yun family's daughter, so there was no reason for him to worry. He believed that in doing so, she definitely wouldn't come into contact with any other men. And now, she had told him that she liked someone. Su Hongqing almost fainted after hearing that. As for the Xuanyuan family's father and son, they looked as if they had just swallowed a few flies. She already liked someone, and yet they organized an engagement party with the Xuanyuan family, and then publicly rejected Shui. Did they think the Xuanyuan family were monkeys? As for Xuanyuan Shui, although he was doing his best to stay calm, his face became slightly twisted. He could almost feel the humiliation of being cuckolded. Already has someone she likes? Xuanyuan finally spoke as he coldly laughed. This caused everyone's hearts to tremble, and Su Hongqing inwardly sighed. He knew that the leader of the Xuanyuan family was furious. In the end, the Su family wielded too much power. Xuanyuan could vent his anger, but he couldn't go too far. He looked at the young man wearing a set of white clothing and the peaked cap as he found an outlet to vent on. If it wasn't for this person suddenly jumping out, how could the situation become like this? He pointed at Ling Chen as he coldly said, "Little Su'er, don't tell me that your lover is him." I was wondering why that young man suddenly jumped out and said those things, and hearing that Su'er already has someone she likes, although I'm not very smart, I can see what's going on. Xuanyuan's cold laughter and actions caused the countless gazes to once again fall on Ling Chen's body. Su Hongqing knew that he was taking out his anger on Ling Chen, but he couldn't do anything about it. He could only sigh as he said, "Brother Xuanyuan, I simply," however, Xuanyuan cut him off. The cold smile remained on his face, and he didn't even look at Su Hongqing as he stared at Ling Chen. "Lil brother Su doesn't need to say anything more, I understand." "What a pity, it seems that my son Shui is unworthy to be associated with your Su family. In that case, I'll at least see how your Princess Su'er's lover is. I want to see what sort of godly person he is. He's surely hundreds of times better than my useless son, Shui, right?" Su Hongqing bitterly laughed. "Brother Xuanyuan, you've misunderstood. We don't even, ha ha ha." This wave of laughter suddenly cut Su Hongqing off. Ling Chen was laughing so hard that his head tilted back, and the laughter filled every inch of the hall. Xuanyuan, we've known each other for such a long time, and it's only been a few months since we last saw each other. What, do you not recognize me? The white peaked cap was sent flying high into the air, and landed far away. Ling Chen's grinning face was revealed to Xuanyuan, as well as the rest of the people present. It's you. Xuanyuan let out a fearful cry, as his eyes instantly widened. He stumbled back a few steps, as if he had been pushed. His reaction caused everyone to feel incredibly shocked. What sort of person was Xuanyuan? He was the leader of the Xuanyuan family. He had stepped into a realm that mortals were incapable of stepping in, and was almost a legendary existence. No one could compare to his status, background and strength. There was almost nothing that he was afraid of in the world. However, facing this young man, he was incredibly terrified, as if he had seen the god of ghosts. Ling Chen laughed with great relish. Xuanyuan family's leader, your arm seems to have recovered quite well. However, your left and right arms don't seem to be very symmetrical. Do you want me to help you adjust your left arm a bit? Xuanyuan was breathing raggedly and his entire body trembled. His face was deathly pale, and was beaded with sweat. The pain from having his arm ripped off made him want to die, and on the way to the hospital, he had considered ending his life many times. After a few months had passed, his right arm had recovered quite a bit, but the trauma left on him would remain with him for the rest of his life. Xuanyuan had never feared anyone before, but Ling Chen had become his worst nightmare. It's you. This roar came from Xuanyuan. He stood up from his seat with a whoosh as all of the muscles in his body tightened. It had been quite dark that night, and Ling Chen had been covered in blood. Xuanyuan hadn't been able to see Ling Chen very clearly, so when he saw Ling Chen at the banquet, he only felt that he looked familiar, but couldn't place him. Only when he talked about Xuanyuan's arm did he confirm who Ling Chen was and roared out. As he shot up, more and more people recognized him. It's him. That national fugitive Ling Chen. The leader of the terrorist group. As soon as that was yelled out, the people who felt that Ling Chen looked familiar immediately recognized him. The hall was instantly filled with cries of shock and fear. Su Yicheng jumped onto the stage and stood in front of Su Hongcheng and Su Er as he deeply frowned. To the rest of the world, it was said that Ling Chen had led a terrorist group to attack the Long family. However, as the third highest senior official in China, how could he not know the truth? That night, a single young man had ripped through the Long family's defensive lines and destroyed their 7 main forces, as well as injured Xuanyuan, Xuanyuan and Xuanyuan Dao. That person was like a demon god. He had always wanted to know what sort of person could possess such terrifying and inhuman strength, and now, that person was standing in front of him, and he looked even younger than in his photos. Capture him, no. Immediately execute him. Su Yicheng immediately reacted and resolutely gave an order. This young man was the most terrifying creature in all of China, and the things that he had done caused Su Yicheng to tremble. Seeing him here, all he wanted was for him to die. Hearing his yell, 30 or so hidden guards shot out from different positions like cheetahs. 30 barrels were pointed towards Ling Chen's solar plexus. Su Er's face immediately paled, and just as she was going to shout for them to stop, an ear-shattering yell suddenly rang out, "Stop!" Both Su Yicheng and Xuanyuan knew why he had stepped out, so neither of them said anything. Xuanyuan pushed through the guards surrounding Ling Chen, and his mountain-like body stood in front of Ling Chen. His eyes were narrowed as he stared at Ling Chen, creating an incredibly heavy atmosphere. The pressure Xuanyuan was emitting was incredibly suffocating, and everyone close to him felt as if there was an iron board weighing down on their chests, making it incredibly difficult for them to breathe. The entire hall became so silent that it would be possible to hear a pin drop. No one had thought that a birthday banquet could develop into such a situation. The Su family's princess had publicly rejected the arranged marriage with the Xuanyuan family. A national fugitive had appeared, causing Xuanyuan to shake with fear. And what was Murong Xiong going to do now? You want to fight with me? Facing the pressure that was intentionally released by Murong Xiong, Ling Chen didn't seem fazed at all. In fact, he didn't even seem wary. He had his arms folded across his chest as he complacently looked at him. How could Ling Chen not understand what Murong Xiong's intent was? Humph. Murong Xiong coldly harumphed as the pressure he was emitting slightly increased. He lowered his gaze, his eyes burning with flames. Ling Chen, you're still alive, and not only are you alive, you seem to be mostly healed from those fatal injuries. I'm not just mostly healed, I've long since been fully healed. Ling Chen smilingly replied. Murong Xiong had personally seen how grievous Ling Chen's wounds had been that night. Those wounds were enough to kill a normal person countless times. If they were on Murong Xiong's body, he would have been dead without a doubt. He believed that even if Ling Chen survived, he would be crippled. At the very least, his left hand had been almost destroyed by the Blood Wolves' leader, and his right arm had almost been cut off by Xuanyuan. Even the best doctor in the world wouldn't be able to heal such injuries. However, normal logic did not apply to Ling Chen's monstrous body. Not only had he fully recovered, but it had taken him less than half a month to fully recover. If Murong Xiong knew about this, he would be so shocked that his jaw would fall to the ground. No, he definitely wouldn't even believe it. Fully healed? Murong Xiong's eyebrows jumped, showing his surprise. He then coldly laughed. Excellent. Let's have a fair fight then. Last time, I underestimated you and was too careless, so I lost to you. That was the most humiliating defeat in my lifetime. I can only wash away that humiliation by completely defeating you. To Murong Xiong, that night's defeat was the most humiliating thing he had ever experienced in his entire life. Back then, he had only fought with Ling Chen for 3 bouts. The first bout, Ling Chen had taken the initiative to attack, and Murong Xiong hadn't bothered to dodge or evade. Ling Chen was sent flying back from the impact, and his right hand was dislocated, while Murong Xiong only felt a bit of pain. The second bout, Murong Xiong had clashed fists with Ling Chen, causing Ling Chen to fly more than 10 meters away, and dislocated his entire right arm, as well as caused him to spit out a mouthful of blood. Murong Xiong had put about 60% of his power into that strike. The third bout, he had used 80% of his power. He had wanted to blow apart Ling Chen's head, but his punch had missed. Ling Chen's punch had turned into a knife hand strike, and heavily struck Murong Xiong in the temple. Despite being a metal esper, being hit in that deadly spot, his consciousness was scattered. He was then hit so hard in the head that all 7 of his orifices started to bleed until he completely fainted. Murong Xiong was publicly acknowledged to be the strongest esper in all of China, and after becoming famous, he had only lost to Xuanyuan before. Moreover, it was while Xuanyuan was using the incredibly sharp azure-edged sword. No matter if it was his strength or his body, he completely outclassed Ling Chen. Beating Ling Chen would be incredibly easy, and he attributed that night's loss to his carelessness and arrogance. As such, he felt incredibly sullen about that loss. The feeling of losing to a junior who was far inferior to himself felt incredibly humiliating to him. As such, when he saw Ling Chen today, he was determined to defeat him to wash away this humiliation. Hearing Murong Xiong's words, Ling Chen's expression became one of amusement. He looked at Murong Xiong strangely as he gave a humorless smile. Are you sure? Aren't you worried that you'll lose even more pitifully this time, increasing that humiliation even more? Murong Xiong once again coldly laughed as his muscles expanded and contracted. Brat, it's quite surprising that you can have such strength at such a young age. However, there are people beyond people, and heavens beyond heavens. Do you think you can defeat me with your strength? Murong Xiong Tian lifted his thick and muscular right arm as he coldly continued speaking, "You'll soon know that under my hands, you won't even be able to struggle." "Really, now?" Ling Chen nodded as his gaze became even stranger. He leisurely spoke, "Last time, I attacked you first, and it was your duty to try to stop me. As such, a fight was inevitable. As for this time, this is Princess Suer's birthday banquet, so fighting would ruin everything. Moreover, there simply isn't any irreconcilable hatred between Leader Murong and myself. Why do we need to fight to the death? If Leader Murong is determined to reclaim his honor, why not keep things simple? I heard that Leader Murong is specialized in strength-based attacks, so why not compete in strength?" "Compete in strength? You want to compete with me in strength?" Murong Xiong Tian almost laughed out loud, and everyone else in the hall was completely flabbergasted. They naturally knew how terrifyingly powerful Murong Xiong Tian was. Both his strength and the toughness of his body had exceeded humans' limits. It was difficult for even high-caliber bullets to pierce his body, and he could punch through a thick iron board, and yet, this young man wanted to compete with him in terms of strength? On the stage, Su Yicheng's gaze never left Ling Chen. His eyes flashed as he muttered, "Looking to die." "That's right, competing in strength." Ling Chen stretched out his right arm. Compared to Murong Xiong Tian's arm, it looked incredibly skinny and weak. Not only could it not be described as muscular and powerful, but it even looked as white and weak as a woman's arm. It was difficult to see that it could contain even a bit of strength. After swinging his arm around, Ling Chen slowly said, "The method for competing is quite simple. I'll punch, and Murong Xiong Tian will punch. A punch against a punch, whoever can't withstand the other person's punch will be the loser. This method is incredibly simple and direct. Why do we need to fight and kill each other?" In that instant, countless people looked at Ling Chen like an idiot. Ha 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 ha, that was the funniest joke Murong Xiong Tian had ever heard. He had been a metal esper from birth, and had been incredibly strong since he was young. No one had ever requested to compete with him in strength, as that was simply ridiculous. Even Xuanyuan Dao used roundabout attacks when fighting him, and never dared to clash with him in terms of strength. Moreover, Murong Xiong Tian had witnessed Ling Chen's strength before. He was indeed quite strong, to the point that he could make Murong Xiong Tian's body burn with pain, but it was still nothing to him. If they directly clashed, he was 10,000% sure that he would be able to completely obliterate Ling Chen's arm. That night, Ling Chen had displayed his frightening agility. If he had tried to use his strengths against Murong Xiong Tian would have had to be wary, lest he once again fell into Ling Chen's trap. However, Ling Chen was simply looking to die, and obviously didn't take him seriously. This caused Murong Xiong Tian to coldly laugh as flames of fury rose within him. He simply couldn't reject this proposal. "Very well, your suggestion is terrific. I'm sure it's so good that you'll remember it for a lifetime." "Remember it for a lifetime? I'm not sure what you mean." "I'm pretty sure that I'll forget about something small like this after a nap." Ling Chen smirked. This blatant condescension caused Murong Xiong Tian to feel even more furious. He was going to show some mercy to Ling Chen, but now decided that he wouldn't hold back at all and use 100% of his power. Murong Xiong Tian raised his right arm as his dark skin bulged with veins. "Well then, are you ready?" "Ready? Of course I'm ready. Senior Murong, attack when you're ready. I'll definitely receive the punch." The ready Ling Chen looked incredibly casual, as if he was taking a stroll on the beach. His arms were still folded across his chest, and he hadn't bothered to move at all. Murong Xiong Tian roared in fury, "Looking to die." His voice sounded like thunder in everyone's ears, and a tremor passed through the guests' bodies. Murong Xiong Tian's brows tightened, and as he raised his right arm, the muscular arm seemed to become even thicker. The blue veins expanded and contracted, as if they were going to explode, following which, a punch containing all of Murong Xiongtian's strength rocketed towards Ling Chen's face. Having been repeatedly provoked by Ling Chen, Murong Xiongtian didn't even hesitate to use his full strength. In that instant, the people near Murong Xiongtian felt a wild gust of wind sweep towards them. Those within 10 meters were forced back by 3 steps, and the incredible pressure caused everyone to hold their breaths. Some people tightly closed their eyes, not willing to see the bloody scene. Anyone could see that Murong Xiongtian had used his full strength, and would probably crush this young man into minced meat. On the stage, Su'er covered her eyes as she screamed in fear. When Murong Xiongtian's fist was about half a meter away from his face, Ling Chen suddenly sprang into action. His right arm suddenly shot out like a bolt of lightning, and was so fast that no one could see his fist clearly. He didn't dodge, nor did he twist his body. Instead, he sent his fist shooting towards Murong Xiongtian's full-powered punch. In the next instant, it smashed into the fist that was 3 to 4 times bigger than his own. Boom! The sound of the 2 fists colliding sounded like a bomb exploding. In that instant, a cold smile appeared on Ling Chen's face. Competing in strength? Who's looking to die? At that moment, time seemed to stop and everyone fell silent. An incredibly pitiful cry suddenly destroyed this silence. Argh! The ground beneath Ling Chen's feet cracked, and his feet sunk into the ground. However, the lower half of his body didn't move, not even by a single step. Only the top half of his body leaned back. As for Murong Xiongtian, as he cried out, his muscular body was blown away like a gigantic sandbag, and crashed into one of the firm walls with a boom. The entire hall trembled, and the large chandelier in the middle of the hall violently shook, and almost fell. The wall that Murong Xiongtian smashed into was filled with cracks. If it wasn't nearly 1 meter thick, Murong Xiongtian would have blown through it. Chief Murong, this, everyone had thought that Ling Chen would be pulverized into minced meat, and at the very least, he would be sent flying. However, no one expected that the one who would be blown away would be Murong Xiongtian, not Ling Chen. Murong Xiongtian had used his full strength, but the result was completely incomprehensible. A group of people quickly rushed over, trying to pull Murong Xiongtian out. However, his body was stuck in the wall, and they simply couldn't move him. The people nearest to Ling Chen stumbled back in fear. Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng's jaws dropped, unable to believe their eyes. This was the person who had caused a disaster at the Long family's residence by himself. The person who had almost destroyed 4 of the 7 main forces by himself. The person who had killed the leader of the Blood Wolves, and defeated Murong Xiongtian, Xuanyuan Sheng and Xuanyuan Dao. The person who the Long family had made a national fugitive. Although many people had heard what had happened that night at the Long family's residence, and no matter how exaggerated the stories they heard were, everyone who saw Ling Chen blowing Murong Xiongtian was so shocked that their hearts almost stopped beating. This was especially so for Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng, who knew just how terrifyingly strong Murong Xiongtian was. At that moment they felt their scalps go numb, and their throats dried up as they shivered. This person. Was he a person or a monster? The sleeves on Murong Xiongtian's right arm had become countless strips of cloth, and his entire right arm hung limp. Lines of blood also started to run down his arm, and soon, his entire right arm was stained with blood. His fingers were also bent unnaturally, each of his fingers were completely broken. The web between his thumb and forefinger continuously dripped with blood. He ignored the people trying to get him out, and he couldn't even feel his body. He weakly looked at Ling Chen, his eyes completely dim as he hoarsely muttered, "Impossible. Impossible." That night, his strength had far exceeded Ling Chen's and had only lost to Ling Chen because of his carelessness. He had felt incredibly humiliated, and frequently dreamt about taking revenge on Ling Chen. Today, he had finally found Ling Chen again, and challenged him to wash away his humiliation. However, he never thought that he was lose so badly in a competition of strength. Impossible? Why is it impossible? Ling Chen walked forwards as he coldly smiled. Murong Xiong Tian, you thought that my strength and body are far inferior to yours, and you only lost to me that night because you were careless, right? Huh. What a joke. You only focused on your carelessness, and didn't consider when I fought you, how many battles I had already fought. How many people I had already killed, how many injuries I had suffered and how much blood I had lost. I'll tell you now, before I fought with you, I had already killed 2,000 people, many of whom were elite soldiers from the 7 main forces. I had taken more than 300 bullets, and had 20 near-fatal injuries from the blood wolves. I had lost nearly half of my body, and I was so tired that I almost couldn't see. I was completely exhausted by that point, and was not even 10% as powerful as I would have been in my peak condition. It was then you appeared. That was my condition when I fought with you. Murong Xiong Tian's eyes widened, and his face paled. Even though I was close to death, I still beat you down. That's right, I was able to defeat you even when I was in such a weak state, so defeating you in my normal condition is extremely easy. And yet, you thought that you had lost because you were careless, and that you could easily defeat me otherwise. I simply can't understand where you got such self-confidence from. Competing with me in strength? The me from back could barely move anymore. Of course I would seem weaker than you. However now, your strength is barely qualified to face off against me. Ling Chen's words were incredibly arrogant, and didn't give Murong Xiong Tian any face. He didn't put the leader of the 7 main forces in his eyes at all. Murong Xiong Tian's eyes dimmed, and he didn't say anything. Apart from the shame he felt, he was so furious that he couldn't even speak. With such strength, Ling Chen was entirely qualified to look down on him. Everyone knew how powerful Murong Xiong Tian was. He was publicly acknowledged to be the strongest esper in China, and was a genius among espers. Before meeting Ling Chen, he had never lost to anyone except Xuanyuan Dao. To reach where he was today, he was not only talented, but incredibly hardworking. However, how could his talent and effort compare to what Ling Chen had been through? Although Murong Xiong Tian was strong, he was still within the limits of a human. As for Ling Chen, although he had only spent 3 years in heaven, he had wandered along the boundary between life and death for almost every second of those 3 years. He had to break through his limits time and time again by relying on his willpower and mental energy. He had endured pain that a normal person wouldn't suffer in 1,000 lifetimes, and had continuously exceeded his limits in that sort of situation. Ling Chen had long since broken through the limit for humans. At the same time, his body had been bathed in the medicinal baths made by the mad scientist, making it incredibly monstrous. The mad scientist was a terrifying person, and even now, Ling Chen feared him from the bottom of his heart. This fear was because of the mad scientist's peerless intellect and abilities. Any item from heaven, if brought out, would be enough to send the medical world into an uproar. While in hell, Ling Chen continuously danced with the god of death, and crazily absorbed new skills and techniques. How could a genius human compare with a monster whose body had been modified, and had faced death time and time again? Murong Xiong Tian fell completely silent. It would take him a long time to recover from the psychological blow he had taken. Him saying, "There are people beyond, and heavens beyond heavens" to Ling Chen had been returned straight to him. The hall fell deathly silent. Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng's foreheads were beaded with sweat. Although they knew that this was a national fugitive who the Long family was desperate to kill, they didn't dare to give the order to shoot him. This man had taken down Murong Xiong Tian with a single punch, and had thrown the entire Long family into chaos single-handedly. The Su family couldn't deal with such a family. If they angered him, the consequences would be unimaginable. Right now, they could only pray that this person hadn't come to make trouble for them, so they could eventually calm him down and get him to leave. As soon as he left, they would inform the Long family, and it would be the Long family's matter. Su Hongcheng indicated with his eyes for the unconscious Murong Xiong Tian to be taken away. He deeply breathed in as he said, to be able to defeat Murong Xiong Tian with a single punch at such a young age is simply incredible, incredible. I must say, although I'm a generation older than you, I wholeheartedly respect you. However, I must ask, why have you come to the Su family today? From memory, our Su family doesn't have any grievances with you. If you need our Su family to help with anything, especially for a young man like you, we'll be happy to help. No one felt that it was strange for Su Hongcheng to say such a thing. They could only try to get along with this monstrous young man amiably. They could not, under any circumstances, attack him. Otherwise, they would face disaster. Ling Chen lightly smiled. Because he was Suer's father, he was more courteous with him. Mayor Su is too courteous. Indeed, I don't have any grievances with the Su family, and I'm not here to make trouble for the Su family, nor do I need your help with anything. Hearing Ling Chen say this, Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng let out a breath of relief. Thank goodness he wasn't here to make trouble for the Su family. Ling Chen continued to speak, I came here because there was something I couldn't tolerate. Something you can't tolerate? Su Hongcheng frowned. That's right. Ling Chen's smile disappeared as his voice became cold. I've admired Princess Suer for a long time, and felt she's an incredibly rare type of girl. Such a gentle and kind girl should receive all the happiness in the world, but I heard that Mayor Su wanted to marry her to trash like Xuanyuan Shui. I simply couldn't accept this, so I had to come and put an end to it. Otherwise, Princess Suer's entire life will be ruined. Who are you scolding? Xuanyuan Sheng and Xuanyuan Shui flew into a fit of rage, especially Xuanyuan Shui. His face instantly darkened, and became incredibly sinister. As the successor to the Xuanyuan family, he had always been praised and respected, and had never been spoken to like this before. Su Hongcheng frowned, and he felt quite displeased as he coldly said, Young man, your words are too excessive. No matter how you look at it, Xuanyuan Shui is a one-in-a-million young man, and has almost no flaws. In his generation, there are very few people who can compare to him. This is something everyone in Beijing knows. Even if one wanted to find fault in him, it would be incredibly difficult. What right do you have to talk about him in such a way? Moreover, Xuanyuan Shui wholeheartedly loves Suer, so why wouldn't I give my daughter to such a man? One in a million? Almost no flaws? Ha ha ha, Ling Chen reacted as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He wildly laughed for a while, and laughed so hard that he bent backwards. Su Hongcheng became even angrier as he coldly yelled, What are you laughing about? I'm laughing at how some people can be so stupid. Ling Chen stopped laughing as his face instantly became grim. Someone of your status shouldn't be an idiot. However, it seems that I was wrong. I can't be bothered wasting time with you. Have a look for yourself. As he spoke, Ling Chen expressionlessly raised his hand and loudly clicked. The 10 or so large screens around the hall instantly lit up. Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng were dumbfounded. They were about to ask Ling Chen what was going on when suddenly one of the women spoke. Young Master Xuanyuan. I heard, you're going to be engaged, to Mayor Su's daughter, tomorrow. The woman's voice was soft and weak, and incredibly seductive. The name she spoke caused everyone's head to buzz, and the voice that spoke next caused everyone's faces to fall. Hey, that's right, once tomorrow night's engagement party is over, the Su family's little beauty won't be able to escape. I've waited for this day for a long time. Everyone could tell that this voice was Xuanyuan Shui's. When the screen had lit up, Xuanyuan Shui had felt a bit confused, and felt that the scene looked quite familiar. When the woman had spoken, a look of horror appeared on his face. Suddenly, every pair of eyes was fixed on him. Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng, who were about to ask what was happening, stood stunned. More and more unsightly scenes filled the screen as the dialogue continued. Then, after you have the Su family's beautiful daughter, will you throw us away? Of course not, you're my little darlings. How could I give you up? But she's the Su family's daughter, their only daughter. If her father or uncle found out, ha ha ha. You don't need to worry about that at all. The beautiful Su heir is reputed to be incredibly gentle and obedient, such a girl is easier to train than a kitten. When she falls into my hands, I'll train her well, and make her do as I wish. When that time comes, she'll be willing to join us in a foursome. Ha 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 ha, not only will she not tell her family, she'll help me keep this secret. Plus, so what if the Su family finds out? The Su family only has a single heir, and after tomorrow, everyone will know that she's mine. Even if I plan to keep her as a pet, what can they do to me? After a while, won't the Su family belong to my Xuanyuan family? Ha ha ha. Apart from the lewd sounds and dialogue from the video, the hall was completely silent. Everyone felt that this birthday banquet was becoming more and more amusing. The man's face in the video had long since been revealed, and it was Xuanyuan Shui without a doubt. Everyone's hearts started to wildly thump. They had come with the intent to have fun at this banquet, but never in their wildest dreams did they think something like this would happen. Something big had happened. Ling Chen was expressionless, and he coldly gazed at Su Hongcheng, waiting for his reaction. Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng's faces gradually darkened, and as they watched on, their bodies began to tremble. However, the one who was trembling the most was, without a doubt, Xuanyuan Shui. And it was out of fear, not anger. Xuanyuan Shui. Su Hongcheng's roar sounded like a peal of thunder, causing every person's body to shake. Right now, Su Hongcheng was so angry that he felt as if his hair was going to stand. He had always greatly appreciated Xuanyuan Shui, and had always praised him to one of the most outstanding young men in his generation. These years, he had been incredibly happy and relieved that he had found a good family for his daughter. However, what he had just seen on that screen. He was too focused on the video to wonder why all of the screens had suddenly started to play this video. Instead, he watched as the Xuanyuan Shui that he had appreciated so much make love with two other women on the night before his engagement party. Perhaps just his actions wouldn't have made Su Hongcheng so angry. After all, these young masters of such powerful families always had some bad habits. However, the words he said, especially regarding Su heir, completely humiliated the Su family. Su Hongcheng's chest heaved, and he felt that his chest was about to explode. What a good Xuanyuan Shui, he had called Xuanyuan Shui by his full name both times, and it wasn't just the affectionate Shui anymore. He glared at Xuanyuan Shui's pale face as he furiously roared, "Give my daughter, and my Su family, an explanation for your words." Xuanyuan Sheng was also dumbfounded. He simply wasn't prepared for such a turn of events. If his right arm was better, he would have slapped Xuanyuan Shui. For Su heir to publicly reject them, and with so many rich and powerful families present, the Su family had to give them an explanation or compensation. However, now it was their Xuanyuan family who had to give an explanation. The man in the video was indeed Xuanyuan Shui. How could his father not recognize him? The things he did were enough to make the Su family furious, but the words he said were enough for the Su family to execute him on the spot. They had completely and utterly humiliated and offended the Su family. Su Yicheng's face was as black as the bottom of a pan. He didn't say anything as he coldly stared at Xuanyuan Sheng and Xuanyuan Shui. His piercing stare made it difficult for Xuanyuan Sheng to even muster up the courage to meet his gaze. As for Xuanyuan Shui, being stared at by so many people made it difficult for him to even breathe. Despite attaining quite some mastery over his body through martial arts, he couldn't stop his body from shaking. If this video was fake, with Xuanyuan Shui's personality and mindset, he would have remained completely calm. However, he knew better than anyone else that this video was real. If it was anyone else, seeing that a video of such a scene had been taken, and was now publicly displayed, they would also be scared stiff. Moreover, who was Xuanyuan Shui? He was the successor to the Xuanyuan family, and had incredible abilities, and yet, he hadn't detected anyone recording him. This was what Xuanyuan Shui was most shocked about. "You Uncle Su, this video is fake, it's fake. Someone used CGI to make this video. How could I do such a thing and say such words?" Xuanyuan Shui loudly tried to defend himself, but his words sounded extremely meek. This was because his current emotional state attested to his guilt. As the successor to the Xuanyuan family, if this video was fake, he would be incredibly furious. However, he looked as if he had taken a massive blow. "Fake? Do you think I'm blind and deaf?" Su Hongcheng's voice trembled, showing just how enraged he was. Xuanyuan Sheng let out a long breath. With the current situation at hand, as well as the fact that they were on the Su family's territory, he could only lower his head. "Lil brother Su, it's actually not as serious as you think." Shui's normally incredibly respectful to the Su family, those words. In that state, he was simply rambling, and had no idea what he was saying. The Su family's numbers had started to dwindle since 3 generations ago, but they were still a powerful family. This was especially true for Su Yicheng. The military power he had was something even the Long family had to respect, so if Xuanyuan Sheng decided to take the hard approach, and enter into conflict with the Su family, it wouldn't be beneficial for either family. Just as Su Hongcheng was about to speak, a person hurriedly ran in. He was wearing the Su family's exclusive clothing, and no one stopped him. As soon as he entered, he yelled, "Sir, things are bad. Hackers have taken over the family's media control center, and we've completely lost control. All of the display devices have connected to China's news channel. The hackers are too skilled, and we're unable to take back control. We need Sir to contact the Honker Alliance to help. I'm afraid some of our Su family's private information will be leaked." Su Hongcheng was already quite angry, and he knew that the media control center being taken over was because of Ling Chen. He impatiently waved his hand. "All right, I got it, don't worry about this for now. Without my orders, no one's allowed to come in." "Wait. What did you say? China's news channel?" Whoosh! The entire hall was sent into a frenzy. Xuanyuan Shui looked stunned for a few seconds before his eyes widened and he paled even more. Ha 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 ha, the only one who dared to laugh in this sort of situation was Ling Chen. He looked at the trembling Xuanyuan Shui as he said in delight, "That's right, China's news channel, which is the most viewed channel in all of China. Right now, it's the prime time for people to watch the news, and countless people just saw that video. Before, only a small circle of people knew young Master Xuanyuan's name. However, from tomorrow onwards, all of China will know young Master Xuanyuan's name." Ha 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 ha. The screens suddenly turned gray with static, and after a while, they gradually lit up again. A panicked-looking news reporter appeared, and yelled, "Dear audience! Dear audience, we just suffered a severe attack from hackers, and our signal was hijacked, leading to a serious incident. We profusely apologize, and we will strengthen our channel security in future. We promise such a thing will not happen again. We are willing to bear all consequences," and those evil hackers, when everyone saw that familiar-looking news reporter, they completely understood what had happened. They realized that the unsightly video of Xuanyuan Shui and the 2 women hadn't just been played here as a video, but had been broadcast on China's most viewed TV channel, and had been viewed by people all over China. The way the people looked at Xuanyuan Shui had completely changed, they were now all looks of pity. Even Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng couldn't help but pity Xuanyuan Shui. They also marveled at how vicious the mastermind behind all this was. These methods were simply too cruel. Of course, the mastermind was Ling Chen. Could he have some sort of irreconcilable hatred with Xuanyuan Shui? Could it be that this was the beginning of his revenge against the Long family? Xuanyuan Shui looked like a duck that had been scared stiff by thunder, and didn't move an inch. He felt as if the world was spinning around him, and he was woken up by Ling Chen's wild laughter. His handsome face became as vicious as a demon's, and he destroyed his elegant image as he hoarsely roared, "Ling Chen! There are no grievances between us, and yet, you. The extreme shock and humiliation Xuanyuan Shui felt caused him to be unable to even finish his sentence. The people near Ling Chen all subconsciously took a step back, trying to get as far away from him as possible. This sort of humiliation being broadcast to the entire country, and potentially the entire world, was even crueler than killing someone tens of times. There are no grievances between us? Ling Chen spoke in a mocking tone. How do you know there are no grievances between us? I'll kill you. This was the first time in his life Xuanyuan Shui had lost control like this. He furiously roared as he jumped down from the stage and rushed towards Ling Chen. How could the Xuanyuan family's #1 expert in the younger generation have ordinary skills? His agile body reached Ling Chen in an instant, and knocked everyone in his path away. Shui, stop! Xuanyuan Sheng roared out. He wasn't any less angry than Xuanyuan Shui, but he had fought with Ling Chen twice, and knew just how monstrously powerful Ling Chen was. Just then, Murong Xiong Tian had lost to him pitifully, and although Xuanyuan Shui was quite strong, he was nothing in front of Ling Chen. Xuanyuan Sheng's right arm still hadn't fully recovered, and his body was still a bit weak. As such, he couldn't stop Xuanyuan Shui at all. By the time he had yelled out, Xuanyuan Shui was right in front of Ling Chen, and pulled at his waist as something flashed. He had pulled out a slim and flexible sword from around his waist. The people from the Xuanyuan family always carried a sword on them. In an era where cold weapons were completely suppressed by modern weapons, carrying a sword around openly would only attract unnecessary attention. As such, when they went out, they would always bring a flexible sword, with their belts acting as the sheath. As soon as the flexible sword appeared, it created a net of illusory swords which covered Ling Chen as Xuanyuan Shui roared out. It seemed that Xuanyuan Shui wanted to cut Ling Chen into pieces. Ling Chen coldly laughed, and surprisingly, held out his hand towards the approaching net of illusory swords. Compared to how fast Xuanyuan Shui's illusory swords were moving, Ling Chen's hand seemed incredibly slow. As his hands and the illusory swords were about to clash, everyone could already see Ling Chen's hand being split into a bloodied mess. A hum sounded out. The bloody scene didn't eventuate. Everyone heard a gentle hum as the vast net of illusory swords disappeared, and the true flexible sword appeared. It was about 1 meter long and less than 2 inches wide, and was incredibly lustrous. It contained a might that everyone could detect, and definitely wasn't forged from ordinary metals. Xuanyuan Shui was holding the sword on one end, while the other end was caught between Ling Chen's fingertips. Ling Chen had easily caught the flexible in between his fingertips, as if he was casually taking something out from this pocket. The countless illusory swords were like jokes in front of him. Xuanyuan Shui looked bewildered, as his eyes became as wide as plates. He was incredibly shocked. He subconsciously tried to jerk the flexible sword back, but found that the sword did not even budge. It was as if the sword wasn't caught between Ling Chen's fingertips, but was stuck under a heavy mountain. Seeing the sweating Xuanyuan Shui in front of him, Ling Chen suddenly recalled many memories that he didn't want to remember. Anger and resentment began to well up inside of him as he released the flexible sword and rushed towards Xuanyuan Shui, kicking him in the abdomen. He had kicked incredibly heavily, and Xuanyuan Shui's body flew out as if he had been smashed by a hammer that was thousands of kilograms heavy. He flew 20 to 30 meters before crashing onto the stage. Shui! Xuanyuan Sheng cried out and began to rush over. However, just as he took a single step, he saw something bright flash past. That light seemed quite familiar, and seemed to belong to the sword that never left Xuanyuan Shui's side. It was traveling too fast, and seemed like a meteor. He was unable to do anything as it pierced towards Xuanyuan Shui. It accurately pierced right between his legs. Puchi. Blood flew through the air, and a wail like a pig being slaughtered sounded out. Everyone who heard this felt their hearts seize and their scalps numb. Xuanyuan Shui, who was stunned by Ling Chen's vigorous kick, was shocked back to his senses by the intense pain. His hands gripped the lower half of his body as he screamed and cried. Everyone could clearly see a pool of blood gathering underneath his body. Shui. Xuanyuan Sheng frantically rushed over. Su Yicheng deeply frowned and said in a low voice to the people next to him, "Hurry and call over the military doctors." Dad. Dad. Xuanyuan Shui's bloodied hands tightly held onto Xuanyuan Sheng as he wailed, tears covering his face. Since he had become an adult, this was the first time he had cried, and he was crying so pitifully. Because of the pain from being pierced by the sword, he couldn't feel the lower half of his body. This meant that he had lost the most important symbol to a man. This was something no man could bear. In future, no matter how high his status was, or how handsome he was, or how powerful he was, he would forever live in humiliation and would never be able to raise his head. Even a normal person could laugh at him and pity him. This successor to the Xuanyuan family would become their shame, and the halos around him would disappear forever. Xuanyuan Sheng's hands trembled as he ripped Xuanyuan Shui's pants off. Seeing the bloodied mess, he felt as if he had been struck by a bolt of lightning. If Xuanyuan Shui's genitals had simply been cut off, with the current medical expertise, there would be some hope in restoring them. However, Ling Chen had used an incredibly cruel technique when he had thrown the sword. Because of how fast the sword was traveling, no one saw it rapidly rotating as it sped through the air. When it reached Xuanyuan Shui, it completely annihilated his genitals. Hearing his son's cries of pain and despair, Xuanyuan Sheng's vision darkened and he almost fainted. In that moment, he almost started to weep as well. Everyone present almost didn't dare to breathe. None of them had the courage to look at the smiling young man dressed in white. In front of so many people, in front of Xuanyuan Sheng, he had castrated Xuanyuan Shui. He had done this despite the Xuanyuan family's current leader being present, despite Xuanyuan Shui being the successor to the Xuanyuan family. There would now be irreconcilable hatred between this young man in white and the Xuanyuan family, and they would never be able to coexist. Moreover, despite facing the Xuanyuan family, he had still acted so unreservedly and without hesitation. Evidently, he didn't care about the Xuanyuan family hating him. In fact, it seemed like he wanted them to hate him as much as possible. What sort of enmity did he have with the Xuanyuan family for him to do such a thing? Even a madman would have no reason to act like this. 2 medical doctors from the Su family quickly rushed over. As soon as they entered, they were given a big fright from Xuanyuan Shui's cries of despair. When they came over to Xuanyuan Shui and examined his injuries, they looked at each other, then looked at him pitifully, and took him away. When they passed Ling Chen, he did not move at all, as if he hadn't seen them taking Xuanyuan Shui away. After all, he never planned to kill Xuanyuan Shui. How could allowing Xuanyuan Shui to happily die get rid of the hatred that he had stored up within him for more than 10 years? As he stood up, Xuanyuan Sheng's tear-stained face calmed down. He knew that his son's life was essentially over. His reputation had been destroyed, and even his body had lost the right to be called a man. Xuanyuan Sheng stood in front of Ling Chen, but did not go berserk or burst out in fury. His eyes were calm and dim as he slowly asked, "Ling Chen, if you wanted to take revenge, why not take it out on the Long family, as opposed to my Xuanyuan family? If you wanted to take revenge on the Xuanyuan family, why did you take it out on my son, as opposed to me?" Shui. He never attacked you in the past, so why did you attack him so cruelly? Good question. Ling Chen coldly nodded as he closed his eyes and slowly spoke. My little sister Xuanyuan had no grievances with the Long family or the Xuanyuan family. She was incredibly kind, and it was because of her I didn't even go near the Long family for 6 years, despite how much I hated them. However, Ling Chen's body suddenly started to tremble as his expression became savage. He hoarsely roared, "Why did you people kill her? Why? Tell me why. What did she do wrong? Give me a reason." Xuanyuan was completely dumbfounded. How could he not have known that Ling Chen's little sister Xuanyuan had died when the Long family attacked their home? He knew that because of this, Ling Chen had prepared to give up his life and attack the Long family to take revenge. Xuanyuan wanted to dismember Ling Chen's body, but he couldn't defeat him even in his best condition, let alone now. With his right arm heavily injured, he simply wasn't his opponent. If he was a normal father, even if he knew it would result in his death, he would have attacked Ling Chen. However, he was the Xuanyuan family's leader. He used all of his willpower to stop himself from attacking, because he couldn't afford to die here. If he died, the family would descend into chaos, and he would lose any chance to take revenge for his son in future. Despite being the leader of the Xuanyuan family, he had watched as his son was castrated before him. This sort of humiliation made him feel like breaking down, and he held it within him as he walked towards the door. Ling Chen did not say a single word, much less anyone else. "Ling Chen, I won't forget this hatred from today. The Xuanyuan family will await your revenge any time." He paused, then suddenly asked, "I hope you answer a question of mine. Murong Xiong Tian's strength and body have approached the limit for humans, and he can't become any stronger. This is something all espers have agreed on since many years ago. As for you, your strength and body all surpass Murong Xiong Tian's. Moreover, your speed, eyesight, reaction speed, are all incomprehensible. Moreover, you're only in your 20s, Ling Chen, I've never heard of a person like you before. No matter if it's in China, or in the entire world, there has never been such a person before. I want to know, are you a human or not?" Xuanyuan's question seemed quite strange. He was asking the person right in front of him if he was a human or not. However, this question did not seem strange to Xuanyuan at all. He had even considered whether Ling Chen was some sort of man-made monster, an incredibly powerful cyborg made by an incredibly technologically advanced country, or a being from another world. He was a martial artist, one of the very few martial artists left in the world, and one that stood at the peak. He was very clear as to how strong Ling Chen was. His strength was something that humans simply could not possess. Tell Long Zhengyang and Long Tianyun not to step outside. And you, before I change my mind, disappear from my sight. Otherwise, I might become interested in your left arm as well." Ling Chen coldly laughed as he spoke. This was his answer for Xuanyuan, an incredibly harsh answer. Xuanyuan didn't dally anymore, and immediately left. The hall once again lapsed into silence. A video of the Xuanyuan family's young master had been shown on China's news channel. Xuanyuan Shui had been publicly castrated. Xuanyuan had walked off in humiliation. If Ling Chen said he was a demon, who would say otherwise? With a demon so close to the everyone's hearts beat rapidly, and they held their breaths, as they were afraid they could catch the attention of this demon. All of them were desperate to leave and run as far away as possible, but with Ling Chen standing near the door, who would dare to walk towards him? At this moment, Ling Chen spoke. He looked at Su Hongcheng on the stage as he calmly said, "Mayor Su, shouldn't you be thanking me?" Su Hongcheng stared at Ling Chen dumbly. "If I didn't come here, you would have inadvertently ruined your daughter's life. Would you agree?" Hearing Ling Chen say this, Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng's foreheads erupted with cold sweat. Thinking back to the video, Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng were so furious that they felt their heads were going to explode. Seeing Xuanyuan Shui being castrated, these two men who wielded much power, who had greatly appreciated him before, felt quite delighted. If it wasn't for Ling Chen's sudden appearance tonight, the engagement party would have gone ahead smoothly, and they would have pushed their beloved Su'er into a terrifying abyss. Su Hongcheng sincerely said, "Although I can't agree with some of your methods, but my Su family should indeed thank you." "And, what else?" Ling Chen smiled, "You're a mayor in China, and Chief Su holds great military power in China. As for me, I'm a national fugitive, the head of a terrorist organization. Plus, I just severely injured an important person right in front of you. With your positions, you should be capturing me right away. No, you should be executing me on the spot." "Execute him on the spot?" Su Hongcheng's eyes twitched. Of course Su Hongcheng wanted to. This demonic young man was simply too terrifying. Just by looking at him, this young man made him, the mayor of Beijing, feel incredibly suffocated. However, how could he not know that this man had single-handedly turned the Long family upside down? He had also personally said that he had killed 2,000 people from the Long family. This was despite the soldiers stationed at the Long family all being elites. There were even super elites from the 7 main forces. Killing 2,000 people was simply mind-blowing. That night, Murong Xiong Tian had been utterly defeated, Xuanyuan Sheng's arm had been ripped off, and Xuanyuan Dao had been heavily injured, and all while he had taken hundreds of bullets and had countless wounds on his body, and just then, he had once again destroyed Murong Xiong Tian with a single punch. Wanting to execute a monster like this? What a joke! If someone accidentally shot, they would give this monster an excuse to massacre the entire Su family. If even the Long family had to pay a heavy price to stop him, how could the Su family stop him? He would simply obliterate their entire family. Su Yicheng spoke, "What you said is quite true. With our positions, we should execute you on the spot. However, you showed us a great kindness in preventing this engagement from going ahead. As such, we won't make things difficult for you. You can leave, and no one here will stop you." Su Yicheng's words gave the Su family a way out. Execute Ling Chen? They simply didn't dare to try. Let him go? If the Su family let a national fugitive go, what would everyone say? As such, Su Yicheng gave the Su family a justification for letting Ling Chen go. To the Su family, as well as everyone else present, they were desperate for this demon to leave. Of course, that was everyone except Su'er. What caused them to be overjoyed was that Ling Chen smiled and calmly replied, "Since the Xuanyuan family's people have left, there's no reason for me to stay. Since Chief Su and Mayor Su are so magnanimous, not leaving now would be rude of me. I hope to see you again." After speaking, he turned and started to walk away. Ling Chen's words were a misdirection. He had made everyone believe that he had come here to take revenge on the Xuanyuan family, and had nothing to do with the Su family. Su'er opened her mouth and couldn't help herself from taking a step forwards as she watched Ling Chen leave. Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng let out a sigh of relief. They looked at each other, and felt as if a massive burden had been lifted off their shoulders. The guests also wiped the cold sweat off their brows. The demon was finally leaving. Ling Chen pushed open the half-open door, and the instant he stepped out of the hall, the sound of hundreds of guns being loaded rang out. Hundreds of guns pointed at his head, and all of them were heavy machine guns. Hundreds of meters away, there were 10 snipers positioned at different locations with many red dots pointing at his forehead and temples. Outside the hall, the densely gathered machine guns caused the guests' faces to fall. Some of the women covered the mouths, holding back their cries of fear. Ling Chen's eyes narrowed, and half turned around as he coldly asked, "This is what you meant by no one stopping me when I left?" This group of people had been called here by Su Yicheng to deal with Ling Chen. However, because Ling Chen had no intention to make things difficult for their Su family. These people were not needed. Su Yicheng hurriedly ordered, "Immediately lower your guns and retreat. No one's allowed to stop him." This command was issued by Su Yicheng, and it was like an imperial decree. Immediately, the sounds of guns being put away sounded out as all of the soldiers outside took 2 steps back, creating a path for Ling Chen. The red dots on Ling Chen's head also disappeared. Ling Chen harumphed, and told around, and looked at Su'er in the eyes, and saw a look of worry and reluctance to see him leave. Ling Chen's mouth lifted up into a smile. Whoosh! A gust of wind suddenly rose up as Ling Chen stepped back into the hall at an incredible speed. He was simply too fast, and no one even saw him clearly. All they saw was a white blur flash past, and in an instant, he had reached the stage. Ah! Cries of shock sounded out as everyone looked over to the stage. Ling Chen was standing behind Su'er with a cold smile on his face. One hand was on her arm, while the other was around her neck. Su'er's timid eyes trembled, and seemed to be filled with tears. Evidently, she was utterly terrified. "What are you doing? Let her go." Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng were horrified, and yelled out. "What am I doing? What are you doing?" Ling Chen calmly asked. Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng immediately realized why he had done this. Su Yicheng hurriedly replied, "We'll definitely let you safely depart. The people at the door won't attack you, no matter what, just let her go." "Huh," Ling Chen coldly laughed, "right now, they won't attack me. However, when I'm walking through them, all Chief Su needs to do is make a gesture, and I'll be shot into a hornet's nest. Wouldn't that be a sad death? I don't think your Su family's soldiers' flashy equipment is just for show. I'll immediately tell them to retreat to somewhere where you can't see them." Su Yicheng was so worried that his entire forehead was covered with sweat, and he wanted to slap himself. Why hadn't he asked them to retreat when he asked Ling Chen to leave? Retreat? To somewhere where I can't see them? So that they can launch a surprise attack on me? Ling Chen continued to coldly smile. He stroked Su'er's neck with his fingers, feeling her soft skin. The ticklish feeling caused Su'er to squirm, and Su Yicheng and Su Hongcheng became so scared that they began to tremble. "I swear on my honor, as well as the Su family's future, swear. The thing that's worth the least in the world is promises. What do you want then?" Very simple, a mysterious look appeared in Ling Chen's eyes. "I need a hostage to guarantee my safety as I leave." As such, Ling Tian was now the glory of China, and held an incredible position within the hearts of the Chinese players. If Ling Tian issued a call for action within the game, the effects would be unimaginable. This was especially so after his trip to the East Ocean continent. Ling Tian had almost become a hero to every Chinese player. The conflict between China and Japan was had to reconcile, and the enmity between them had grown deeper and deeper. No one had ever caused Japan to suffer like this before. If the Chinese players found out that Ling Tian was actually the Ling Chen who the Long family had made a national fugitive, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, what was certain was that no matter how powerful the Long family was, if the news that Ling Tian was Ling Chen was spread, everything would be out of their control. Moreover, the reason for the Long family's disaster was that they had sent people to attack Ling Tian after discovering his real-life identity, causing them to draw Ling Chen's hatred, resulting in a bloody catastrophe. Currently, the families close to the Long family, such as the Xuanyuan and Su families, believed that the Long family had attacked Ling Chen because they discovered that he was the one who attacked them 6 years ago. If people found out that the Long family's disaster was a result of Long Tianyun's selfish revenge on Ling Chen for events that happened in the game, the Long family would suffer incredible shame. Ling Tian and Su'er had both belonged to Heart's Dream, which had once been the #1 guild on the guild rankings. This was something the Su family had been delighted about. If the Su family had known Ling Tian was Ling Chen, they wouldn't have been worried at all. In fact, they probably would have laughed out loud. However, because they didn't know, Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng had been sweating bullets the entire time, they only knew that this young man was a madman and a demon. He was capable of doing anything, and he could kill someone as casually as chopping cabbage. Seeing that Su'er had fallen into the hands of this demon, these two men who held incredible statuses and had been through many storms felt their bodies erupt in sweat, and they trembled as their hearts almost jumped out of their throats. Hostage? If you need a hostage, you can take me. I'm a much better hostage than my daughter, so please release her. Su Hongcheng threw away the gun that he had kept hidden, and raised his hands into the air as he walked towards Ling Chen. There's also me. Su Yicheng also threw his gun away. If you need a hostage, we're much better than a little girl. Plus, we don't know any martial arts, so with your skills, we won't be able to even resist. With the two of us, you should be satisfied, right? Hurry up and let her go, and we'll go with you. Dad. Uncle. Su'er's eyes became red, and the tears that she had tried to keep in started to fall. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. She was more sure than anyone that the person behind her wouldn't hurt her. Stop. Seeing that Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng were walking closer, Ling Chen coldly spoke. He then slowly and expressionlessly said, Chief Su, Mayor Su, I don't have much patience. From this moment onwards, follow my instructions carefully. I don't want to hear any nonsense, nor do I want to see you do anything stupid. Otherwise, I'll immediately do something you don't want to see. I always keep my word. Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng immediately reacted as if they had been frozen, and didn't dare to move an inch. Their mouths opened and closed, but they couldn't say anything, afraid that Ling Chen really would do the unthinkable. They could only plead Ling Chen with their eyes. There was not a hint of threatening or warning in their eyes. He had killed more than 2,000 people at the Long family's residence, and had publicly castrated the Xuanyuan family's eldest son. What wouldn't he dare to do to their Princess Su'er? Was there anything that he didn't dare to do? Provide a spacious car for me within 30 seconds, it'd be best if it was a SUV. Park it at the entrance to the hall. Remember, you only have 30 seconds. As soon as Ling Chen spoke, Su Hongcheng didn't dare to dally at all. He immediately grabbed the microtransmitter on his collar as he yelled, Got it? Hurry up and drive my car to the banquet's entrance. Hurry. Ling Chen calmly laughed, and started to walk with Su'er down from the hall. His hands didn't leave her neck, but he walked slowly. Evidently, he didn't want to make Su'er too uncomfortable. Su'er's eyes were watery, and she looked at her father and uncle the entire time, but was unable to tell them the truth. She hoped they wouldn't be too worried about her. Under Ling Chen's warning, Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng didn't dare to say anything or come closer. They hesitantly followed behind Ling Chen at the same distance, and their backs were completely soaked. Seeing Su'er fall into danger, their hearts seemed to hang in the air. They were so worried that they didn't even think of the obvious. Ling Chen had been able to take down thousands of soldiers by himself, so how could a mere 300 people threaten him at all? Why would he need a hostage? The guests all frantically retreated as Ling Chen walked past them, afraid that they would be caught up as well. When he reached the door, he saw that a black Land Rover was parked there. It was Su Hongcheng's own car. Ling Chen coldly yelled out, Open the door. Quickly. Open the door. Su Hongcheng was terrified, and hurriedly gave the order as well. A man wearing a dark-colored army uniform walked up and opened the front door and back door of the car, then retreated. A few hidden snipers raised their sniper rifles. When the red dots appeared on Ling Chen's head, Su Hongcheng exploded in fury, Bastards! Who told you to raise your guns? Put them down. Throw all of your weapons onto the ground. Without my command, no one's allowed to pick up their weapons. The soldiers stared in shock for a few moments. Weapons were half of a soldier's life, and their profession required them to keep their weapons on them no matter if they were eating or sleeping. It was the first time they had been ordered to throw down their weapons. However, how could they dare to disobey Su Hongcheng? The sound of guns being thrown to the ground filled the air. Loading, aiming, firing were all actions they were incredibly familiar with. However, they had never been trained to throw down their guns before, creating a chaotic scene. Only when the sounds of sniper rifles being dropped in the distance could be heard, Su Hongcheng wiped the sweat off his forehead. However, his legs continued to tremble. If Ling Chen had thought that he was trying to launch a sneak attack, and then taken his anger out on Su'er, the Su family would have to flood the world with tears. If they lost Su'er, their Su family's lineage would be completely finished. There would be no one to inherit all of their property and reputation. Within the deathly silence, Ling Chen didn't speak as he brought Su'er to the car. He gently pushed into the seat behind the driver's seat, then heavily closed the door. During this entire process, Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng didn't dare to say a single word. After closing the door, Ling Chen looked at the two men as he slowly said, "Before, I said in front of all of you that Su'er's a very good girl. I can't bring myself to hurt such a wonderful girl, so after I've reached a safe place, I'll arrange for her to be brought back safely. As such, you don't need to worry." There's no need for me to waste time and lie to you, right? Ling Chen's words caused Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng to relax a little. Princess Su'er has a weak personality, half of it is because of her nature, and the other half is because of the environment she grew up in. The main reason is because she's lacked a sense of security. I'm sure, as her relatives, you know why this is. I'm saying all of this because what Su'er needs is someone who can give her a sense of security and protect her for the rest of her life. Not a filthy piece of trash like Xuanyuan Shui, who only looks excellent on the outside. Just then, I could see that you truly care for Princess Su'er from the bottom of your hearts. However, it's a pity that you're unable to understand Su'er's true thoughts. Many of your decisions are selfish ones, and don't allow for any resistance. I hope you can properly reflect after today's events and try to understand what she wants and what's truly best for her. I hope you don't find her a second Xuanyuan Shui. Just like that, Ling Chen showered China's third highest senior official and the mayor of Beijing with words of rebuke. He was furious that they had wanted to marry Su'er to Xuanyuan Shui, and had been so pleased at themselves. If Su'er hadn't encountered him, this engagement party would have gone through, and such a pure and flawless girl would have been ruined. Hearing Ling Chen rebuke them like this, they didn't become furious, but instead inwardly heaved a sigh of relief. From Ling Chen's words, they could tell that he truly cared about Su'er, and understood her more than even them. This further proved that he wouldn't harm Su'er. We'll remember your words. About today's matters, after Su'er safely returns, we'll apologize to her. Su Hongcheng said as he sighed. Miraculously, he wasn't thinking about Su'er's safety anymore, but about the events that had transpired today. I trust that you're a man of your word. Su Yicheng only said one sentence. Just then, although Ling Chen's words were quite sharp and harsh, they released much of the tension in the atmosphere. Ling Chen gave a slight nod, then entered the car and closed the door. The engine roared to life, and the car started to drive off at an unhurried pace, then accelerated and sped away, leaving everyone's vision. The massive play had finally come to an end, and all of the guests had sweat all over their foreheads, and felt that they had a new lease on life. After Ling Chen left, they all hurriedly said their goodbyes and left as quickly as they could. Chao Ying and Chao Shi also said their goodbyes to Su Hongcheng and the others, then left. Their gazes also contained traces of shock and fear, and Su Hongcheng and Su Yicheng could only stiffly smile. How could they notice that their bodyguard had disappeared? Don't worry, that girl will be fine. Su Hongcheng patted Su Yicheng's shoulder as he sighed. Ling Chen gave him the feeling that he would never hurt Su'er. Su Yicheng nodded, and also calmed down. His mind started to become clear, and he started to replay what had happened. He looked up towards the gates and said in a low voice, "Big bro, did you feel that Xuer and that Ling Chen seemed to know each other? You also felt that?" Su Hongcheng wasn't surprised by Su Yicheng's words. Her reaction after being taken hostage was too strange. Only now did I realize that Ling Chen was wreaking havoc in the Long family's residence despite there being thousands of soldiers there. How could our Su family's soldiers stop him? What would he need a hostage for? Now that I think about it, it was as if Ling Chen was trying to take Xuer out on purpose. Although Xuer seemed a bit teary, she didn't look scared at all. Forget it, just let it go. As long as Xuer comes back, it doesn't matter. When she comes back, we can ask her. If she wants to tell us, that's good, and if she doesn't, then we'll drop this matter. After all, that young man's background is simply too sensitive. If they really know each other, then not only will Xuer not be in any danger, but she'll be in the safest place in China. Huh, Su Hongcheng nodded, then exclaimed, however, this time, he really did us a great favor. Who knows where this monstrous young man came from and what his background is? Stars filled the sky, and the evening wild gently blew. It was night time during winter, so there weren't many people in the outskirts of the city. The black SUV's lights illuminated the area next to a small path, and a man and girl leaned against the car, sitting on the soft grass. I haven't seen the stars in so long, just like how I haven't seen Big Brother Ling Tian for so long. The girl gazed at the sky, a bit spaced out. Indeed, she hadn't gone out at night for a long time, and it had been a long time since she had looked up at the stars with Chi and made wishes. Did you miss me then? Ling Chen also half raised his head as he smiled. The girl lowered her head, and after quite a while, she replied in an extremely soft voice, if she had the courage, she would have said, I missed you every day. I missed you as well. Ling Chen half closed his eyes as his voice became softer. He said the words that Xuer had wanted to say, I missed you, every day. Xuer's heart slightly trembled, and felt an incredibly blissful feeling, which made her heart feel warm and sweet. It was quiet all around them, and only the sound of the car's engine could be heard. After a few moments, Xuer secretly looked at Ling Chen as she said in a small voice, Big Brother Ling Tian, I'm really happy, you came. Ling Chen smiled and replied, Xuer, tell me honestly, if I didn't come today, would you have stayed silent and gone along with whatever your family wanted? Xuer fell silent for a few seconds, then nodded. Ling Chen shook his head and bitterly smiled, you're too obedient. My dad, mom and uncle all treat me very well. The evening breeze suddenly became colder, and Xuer wrapped her arms around herself as she slowly said, since I was little, I was my family's hope. No matter if it was my dad or uncle, they placed the future of the Su family on my shoulders. They always gave me whatever I wanted, and never let me suffer at all. They were afraid that I would be negatively influenced by others, so I rarely went out when I was younger, and I never approached strangers. Mum almost never left my side, and took care of me with all she had. After Mum passed away, I was sad for a long time, and felt quite scared after losing my biggest support. After that, Dad and Uncle treated me even better, and did whatever they could for me. I could tell that Dad and Uncle really did put all of their hopes on me, so I never wanted to let them down. Everything they've given me has always been the best of the best, and I always believed that they knew best for me. As such, even if I was unwilling, I couldn't refuse. I didn't want to disappoint them. Afterwards, my auntie became my mum, and she treated me even better than before. Everyone treated me really well, so your dad and uncle put a lot of effort into arranging this marriage for you, so you didn't want to disappoint them, right? Ling Chen asked as he sighed. Xuer curled up as she softly replied, at that time, Dad and Uncle often talked to me about Xuanyuan Shui. They said his looks, character, background, reputation and skills were all excellent. Apart from Long Tianyun, there was no one in Beijing who could compare to Xuanyuan Shui. In fact, Xuanyuan Shui would be able to protect me even better than Long Tianyun. Afterwards, they told me that the Xuanyuan family also approved of this marriage. I could see how happy and excited Dad, Uncle and Auntie looked, so, even though I didn't even know Xuanyuan Shui at that time, and couldn't even remember what he looked like, I could only nod my head. It was because you didn't have anyone you liked at the time, Ling Chen said, but not too long ago, Chi told me that our Su had someone she liked. In that case, why would you still have agreed to this marriage if I didn't come? Su'er looked up and stole a glance at him as she softly replied, long ago, I decided, if you came today, even if Dad, Uncle and Auntie became sad, I would bravely refuse. If you didn't come, if I didn't matter to you, and you weren't willing to come for me, then where would I find the reason and courage to refuse? Big brother Ling Tian, in a few months, it will be my 16th birthday. Can you come to my birthday banquet? Ling Chen could clearly remember the nervousness in Su'er's message, as well as the longing. The cold wind blew, and Su'er shivered. With Ling Chen's body's constitution, even if he was wearing a t-shirt and shorts, he wouldn't feel uncomfortable. However, Su'er was only a delicate girl, and she rarely spent time outside. Ling Chen inched closer to her as he caringly asked, are you cold? Let's go back into the car then. The car's engine hadn't stopped running, and with the air conditioner on, it was around 20 degrees Celsius in the car. The two of them climbed into the back seats, and sat next to each other. In just a while, Su'er's body warmed up. The lights inside the car automatically turned off, and Su'er put her hands on her knees. Her entire body became tense as she lowered her head. They were in a dark, enclosed space, and she could hear Ling Chen's breathing, which made her face flush and heart race. This was the first time she had interacted so intimately with a man before, and it was the man who she liked. Apart from the sound of the car's engine, there was nothing else disturbing them. It was as if there was a little deer running around in Su'er's heart, causing it to rapidly thump. Her cheeks became red, and was given a small fright when Ling Chen suddenly spoke. Ling Chen turned to face her. It was quite dark, but Su'er could still feel his gaze on her, and her head fell even lower. Ever since the first time I saw you, I was sure that no matter what our relationship was in future, I would never be able to forget you. The purity and gentleness in your eyes are able to move every person's heart. Those who see you are unable to forget about you, and will want to protect you, including me. As such, if Su wants to find a person to be with her forever, to protect and cherish her forever, can that person be me? Ling Chen used an incredibly soft voice as he spoke. A wave of warmth flowed through Su'er's heart, spreading throughout her entire body. He raised her head, and looked in front of her. She felt as if she had returned to her dreams, and the yearning she had felt every day. Su, you don't have to be in a hurry to reply. Let me say a few other things before you reply, all right? Ling Chen's words made Su'er feel as if all of this was a dream. She had never expected this to happen, and felt as if her heart was going to explode. She had never felt such bliss and happiness before, and felt as if time had stopped. Only a single figure remained within her heart, as well as the beautiful phrase he had just uttered. Can that person be me? Did you know? I've always wanted that person to be you. Su'er didn't reply. Perhaps she didn't know how to reply. Ling Chen leaned back against the headrest as he breathed out and said, Su, do you really understand me? Deep down, am I a good person or a bad person? Ling Chen slowly stretched out his right hand and placed it in front of Su'er's hazy eyes. Did you know, to most people in the world, I'm an evil demon. This hand has been stained with so much blood that you can't even imagine. The number of people I've killed isn't in the tens, or hundreds, or even thousands, it's probably in the tens of thousands. If you collected all of their corpses, you could create a mountain. In China, even the most terrifying mass murderer would only have killed a fraction of the number of people I've killed. That was until he had met Xuanyuan. Xuanyuan's purity and loveliness had caused him to realize his filth and evil in his body, which was stained with blood. He didn't dare to get too close to her for fear of dirtying her too. Afterwards, he had made a vow not to kill, and had never killed anyone for the next 6 years. On the night Xuanyuan had passed away, he had gone berserk, and had massacred 2,000 people. It was the most he had ever killed in a day. Despite not having killed for 6 years, his hands were still covered with blood and sin. And Xuanyuan. She was as pure as Xuanyuan. How could his evil body have the right to touch her? Ling Chen closed his eyes and continued to speak. Just like tonight, in front of all of you, I gave the cruelest punishment for a man to Xuanyuan Shui. In that hall, all men and women were scared soulless, and tried to get as far away from me as possible. No one even had the courage to look at me. In their eyes, I'm just a savage demon. Perhaps, having killed all those people, I really am a demon. Big brother Ling Chen, you're not allowed to say such things. Xuanyuan, who had listened in silence, suddenly said in a loud voice as she raised her head. Ling Chen was stunned. It was the first time he had heard Xuanyuan speak so loudly before. Even Xuanyuan was given a fright by how loud she yelled. She hurriedly lowered her head, and looked at her hands on her knees. Even if other people don't understand Big Brother Ling Chen. The Big Brother Ling Chen I know is kind and can make others laugh easily. When I see him, no matter how unhappy or pressured I feel, I forget about all of it, and subconsciously I want to get closer to him. This sort of feeling can never be fake. How can someone who gives such peace and comfort be a bad person? The first day we met, Big Brother Ling Chen gave us incredibly precious things without hesitation. I could feel that Big Brother Ling Chen did not expect anything in return at all. When Heart's Dream was first established, we were always holding Big Brother Ling Chen back, but you always took us with you, and never complained or asked to leave. Whenever we needed Big Brother Ling Chen, or were being bullied, you would always put down everything and come to us. Because of Big Brother Ling Chen, our tiny Heart's Dream became the #1 guild on the guild rankings. The #1 spot on the heaven rankings also belonged to our Heart's Dream. We had never dared to dream of this sort of glory before. All of this was brought by Big Brother Ling Chen through his hard work, while we only enjoyed the benefits. We were unable to give Big Brother Ling Chen anything, or do anything for Heart's Dream. Big Brother Ling Chen, you probably didn't know, but although we didn't interact for very long, you became incredibly important to all of us. Facing the entire Yan Huang alliance by yourself, easily defeating the Sword Emperor, monopolizing all of the rankings, and making Heart's Dream the #1 guild in China. At that time, we all felt that we were dreaming. Such a person really existed, and was right beside us. He was working hard together with us. That night, I thought that it was the most terrifying moment in my life. However, a person descended from the skies and rescued me from that nightmare. When he saved me, in order to prevent me from getting hurt, he used his own body to shield me from the ground. He used a gentle voice to comfort me, and stayed with me before Dad and Auntie arrived. He was afraid that I would be cold, so he put his own clothes around me, then quietly left. He didn't leave his name, and even changed his voice on purpose. He only left a figure that I would never forget. How could someone like him be a bad person? Big Brother Ling Chen is the best, strongest, and most perfect person, and is the only person who can make me secretly think about him every day. I won't allow anyone to say that Big Brother Ling Chen is a bad person, even if it's Big Brother Ling Chen himself. After saying so much, Xuanyuan's face became incredibly red. Ling Chen stared in shock for a while, and his eyes became a bit hazy. He laughed as he replied, I was so cruel, and killed so many people. You really don't mind? Xuanyuan lowered her head and softly replied, I only know that you're my big brother Ling Tian. Just that is enough, even if you're a national fugitive and have killed many people. Even if you're an incredibly evil person. Even if your real identity is a beggar, or a thief, or a bandit. I don't mind. As long as it's big brother Ling Tian, he'll forever be perfect to me. Ling Chen took in a breath, feeling an ache in his heart. Suer's reply was so similar to what Xuanyuan had said. What if I like many girls? What if I not only wanted to protect Su, but also other girls as well? Su wouldn't like such a bad person, right? Ling Chen said with some conflict in his eyes. Big brother, big sister Dia Wu, loves you so much, even as much as I do. She did so much for you, big brother. You must find her, and be with her, as well as Chi and Su. They're all so cute and kind and pretty. They're all good enough for big brother, and all like big brother a lot. Big brother can't give them to other people. I'm sure big brother will like them as well, and also big sister Bing Yao. When Xuanyuan had passed away, this was one of the 3 promises she had made him promise. By doing this, she had made a decision that would have been incredibly difficult for him to make. Only when Xuanyuan passed away did Ling Chen realize how beautiful it was to be able to see someone and have them by one's side. As such, no matter how selfish it was, or how immortal it was, he didn't want to let go. Hearing this, Suer fell silent for a while. Ling Chen felt a bit conflicted. He knew that girls didn't like their other half liking other girls. What's more, Suer came from a prestigious background, and was 1 in a million in almost all aspects. How could a girl like her? Just as Ling Chen was about to speak again, Suer quietly said, "Did you know, big brother Ling Tian? Chi secretly likes you as well. After getting to know you, and with how attractive you are, we simply couldn't help but fall for you. However, Chi's illness is quite severe, and she always believed that she didn't deserve to love and be loved. She was worried that if you liked her, she would one day cause you to be sad. Chi is my best sister, and she's liked big brother Ling Tian for a long time, and she was the first person to know that I liked big brother Ling Tian. However, neither of us openly said it. When we were younger, we vowed to be good sisters forever. Also, Chi and I both knew that big brother Ling Tian already had someone in his heart. Ruo wasn't big brother Ling Tian's real sister, but someone who he loved to death. However, despite knowing this, Chi and I couldn't help but fall for big brother Ling Tian." Suer looked up, and her entire face was red, but had a charming smile on her face. Back then, we would fantasize that big brother Ling Tian would be a fickle person and like me and Chi as well, and domineeringly make us his, just like how domineering he was towards the Yan-Huang alliance. How great would that have been? That way, big brother Ling Tian could still be with Ruo, while we could be with big brother Ling Tian and still be good sisters. However, those were just our fantasies, and could never become reality. So it turns out that such a wonderful fantasy could become reality. Suer became red as a pomegranate, and spoke as soft as a mosquito buzzing, but had a happy smile on her face. Ling Chen was stunned. This was a completely unexpected answer. He thought that there was only one girl in the world who was so silly, which was Xuanyuan. Xuanyuan was so silly that she loved him to the extreme, to the point that she casted away her pride. She simply didn't want him to live with any regrets. As for Suer, she was also hopelessly in love. Su, Ling Chen called out her name, but wasn't able to say anything. I, Suer, want big brother Ling Tian to be by my side forever. This is my answer to big brother Ling Tian's answer, as well as the wish I want to fulfill. Suer clasped her hands in front of her as she smiled and softly said, "Big brother Ling Tian, can you fulfill this wish for me?" "Of course." Ling Chen decisively replied. How could he give any other answer? "Then, let's pinky promise." Suer, who felt she was filled with happiness, happily smiled and lifted up her arm. She extended the pinky on her right hand. This is a promise for a lifetime, and neither of us can go back on it. Ling Chen also smiled and stretched out his pinky, entangling it with Xuer's, softly, yet firmly. The moon and stars outside the car didn't seem as bright, but the night had never seemed so beautiful to her before. It was so beautiful that she felt intoxicated, and didn't want to wake up from this blissful dream. No only Chi, but also you, Su, and Meng Xian. You've all completely overturned my expectations of women from upper-class families, and caused me to see what it meant by birds of a feather, flock together. You all have incredibly powerful families, but you're all so pure and flawless. It's no wonder you can be good friends and good sisters. I'm sure that apart from you three, there aren't any girls like you in all of Beijing's upper-class society. In that case, no matter if it's Chi or big sister Meng Xian, big brother Ling Tian likes them all? So big brother Ling Tian was having ideas about big sister Meng Xian as well, so greedy. I didn't say that, I don't believe it. Big sister Meng Xian so pretty, and even my own looks added with Chi's can't compare to hers. That day, big sister Meng Xian took off her veil in front of big brother Ling Tian. After seeing big sister Meng Xian's true appearance, I don't believe that big brother Ling Tian wouldn't fall for her. Big brother Ling Tian's so domineering and smart. I sure that even if it's big sister Meng Xian, big brother Ling Tian will make her his. Chi and I will wholeheartedly support you. After making the most beautiful promise of a lifetime, Xuer's heart had been completely melted, and had the marvelous feeling of I already belong to big brother Ling Tian. All of the restraint, anxiousness and embarrassment were gradually dissolved, and she moved closer to Ling Tian as she began to speak more. Big brother Ling Tian, can you tell me your story? Xuer looked up and gently blinked as she gazed at this man who she would be with forever. My story? We've known big brother Ling Tian for so long, but we don't know anything about your past. Big sister Meng Xian said that you're definitely someone with a lot of stories, and the things you've experienced greatly surpass anything we can imagine. Otherwise, you wouldn't be so powerful. We've secretly asked Ruo before. She would always lightly smile, but wouldn't tell us anything. Afterwards, big sister Meng Xian told us not to ask about this anymore. She said that Ruo's smile caused her heart to ache. Ling Chen, big brother Ling Tian definitely had a very sad and painful past. I want to know more about my big brother Ling Tian, and want to help carry some of that pain with him, so. Xuer's voice became softer and softer. She felt a bit conflicted. She wanted to know everything about Ling Chen, but she didn't know if this was right or not. Ruo's heartbreaking smile told them that Ling Chen's past was definitely a dark one that he wouldn't want to bring up or think about. Perhaps her asking would result in many scars being ripped open. My past. Ling Chen felt a bit surprised. After leaving heaven and hell, and returning to the normal world, he had only told his past to one person, which was Ruo. However, he didn't tell her his true identity, although it was possible that Ruo guessed it, but just didn't say it out loud. Although his years in heaven and hell had been unimaginably dark, they had given him a body, mental energy, and strength that surpassed humans' limits. They gave him the power to protect the important people around him, as well as followers and comrades who would never leave him, as well as lovers. As such, those years weren't that painful for him. After hearing that Dia Wu was still alive, he had even less of a reason to escape from the past. Perhaps the only thing he didn't want to face was his true identity. Su, Ling Chen smiled, we have a promise to be together forever. In that case, you should know everything about me. It's just that I haven't fulfilled one of my greatest desires, though I believe that day won't be too far away. Can you wait until I've fulfilled that desire? When that time comes, I'll tell you everything about my past, alright? Xuer vigorously nodded. She was quite satisfied with this answer, and she clasped her hands together in front of her chest as she closed her eyes and gently said, "Big brother Ling Tian's desire is my desire. For this, I'll work hard." She knew that Ling Tian's greatest desire was linked to what he was doing in the game. This was because Ling Tian spent almost all of his time in the game, searching for those mysterious things. The night grew deeper, and the moon became brighter and brighter. Soon, it had been 2 hours since they had left the Su family's residence. During this period of time, no one had come to disturb them. Afterwards, it was mostly Su'er talking about her childhood, how she had met Chi-Chi, Meng Xian's past, and many other things. The amount of things Su'er talked about tonight exceeded the total amount of things she had said to Ling Chen in the past, because her heart was now Ling Chen's and could completely open up to him. This sort of change was simply miraculous. "Big brother Ling Tian, I should go back now, otherwise Dad and the others will be incredibly anxious." Finally, Su'er somewhat reluctantly asked to go home. Although she didn't want to part with Ling Chen, she had been out for too long. She couldn't imagine just how worried her family was. As such, she had to go back to put their minds at peace. Indeed, it was getting quite late, and if they didn't go back soon, the Su family would be incredibly worried. Ling Chen didn't try to selfishly keep Su'er, and asked, "Do you know how to drive?" Su'er's face became slightly red as she somewhat embarrassedly replied, "No." After all, Su'er had just turned 16, and had been too young to drive. Moreover, she was the daughter of the Su family. Whenever she went out, she would have a top-class military chauffeur driving her. "All right, I'll take you back." But if you go back, it'll be very dangerous." And an expression of deep worry appeared on Su'er's face. "Huh," Ling Chen laughed as he placed his hand on the seat in front of him, and lightly jumped as he flipped into the driver's seat. "Don't worry, your father and uncle aren't idiots. I'm sure that after we left, they realized we know each other. They won't worry about your safety, otherwise they would have sent people to chase after us already. It's possible that they even misdirected the Long family, otherwise, it's unlikely that the Long family wouldn't have found us after so long. I'm sure the thing your family's most worried about is that a man like me would eat up a little girl like you." Su'er stared in confusion for a moment before her entire face became bright red. The car started to drive back to the Su family's residence. It was unclear whether the Su family had misled the Long family, or if the Long family had chosen not to act. On the way back, Ling Chen didn't encounter any obstructions, and the entire trip was incredibly smooth. Ling Chen couldn't help but wonder why this was the entire time. Half an hour later, the car stopped at an unassuming corner of the Su family's courtyard. This was a blind spot in the Su family surveillance. "All right, we're here, you can go home now." Ling Chen parked the car, got out, and opened the door for Su'er. He held Su'er's hand as he helped her out of the car. Su'er's little hand was white and tender, like a warm piece of jade. Ling Chen smiled, feeling hot. Su'er tried to take her hand away, but found that she couldn't. She could only allow Ling Chen to continue holding it. The evening breeze was quite cold, but the hand Ling Chen was holding became warmer and warmer. Su'er lowered her head as she once again blushed, softly saying, This is the first time I've held a man's hand." The current Su'er looked even more delicate and cute than a little doll, causing a mad desire to hug her spring up within Ling Chen. He could feel that Su'er's hand was becoming warmer and warmer. He lowered his head as he softly said, "I don't want just Su'er's first time in holding hands. There are many other first times that I want." As he spoke, he suddenly pulled Su'er into his embrace, causing her to cry out. Ling Chen stopped hesitating and put both of his arms around her as he kissed her on her tender lips. Before Su'er could say anything, her lips had been sealed. As Su'er felt incredibly disorientated, she could feel a fiery warmth of her lips, and could smell a man's scent. Su'er's mind became blank, and by the time she realized what was happening, she could feel her heart melting. The sensation on her lips caused her heart to rapidly beat, and her body froze in anxiety as she tightly closed her eyes.